Hey, this is Gary King here again with another 2020 podcast with my little mate Sarah. The captain steering the ship today on the first part. Sarah wanted to ask me some questions about my past, my music career, where I've got to, where I am now, some of the connections, some of the things perhaps that I saw back in the day. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about some of the things that she's seeing at the moment again, as things are changing. Summer's coming to an end, things she's seeing through work. Talk a little bit about personal fitness, trying to build all of us trying to build a strong body core and so on. So here we go again. Here we are again. We are in, what is it? It is the 14th of September. And I'm here with my best little mate, Sarah, again.
Hello.
Hello, sweetie.
Are you all right?
I'm all right. We're here, us revolutionaries are here rocking a couple of iced coffees.
Iced coffee, coconut water, strawberries, melon, banana. I've got a full buffet breakfast going on here. And Bob the cat.
And you're not moisturising your legs at this moment whilst we're doing this, are you?
I will be at some point because I've got the tub of cream next to me. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's such a... I've always been like it. A massive tub of moisturising cream, rubbing it on my feet, my legs, everywhere.
Well, you've got to keep yourself supple so you can run fast.
Exactly.
Did you see Bob the cat in our video?
I still haven't managed to... You have to tell me what minute it's on.
Well, you're supposed to watch the whole thing. You're not supposed to skip through it. I mean, I put the imagery in there.
No, I didn't.
Not just for our fans, our 3 fans, but for you as well.
I put it on by Bluetooth when I was out and about, so I listened then, and then I need to watch the. I do study and watch it really. I think after I've listened to it once, it's enough listening to me cackling one round. So yeah, you'll have to tell me which minute it's in, but. Maybe actually, no, don't tell me. I will watch the video. Yeah. Well,
I'm not putting any more pictures in if you're not watching it. Everybody's going to have to miss out because Sarah can't be bothered to watch all the pictures and stuff that I put into our comedy videos. Anyway, so enough of that rubbish. Why are we here then? What are we doing today, mate?
Apparently I'm steering the ship, which could be an absolute frigging disaster. Because I'm obviously really prepared, as always, never ever winging anything. And so I think I'm going to ask you some questions about your musical career.
Yep.
Not musicals, when you're in the musicals.
Ra-da-da-da-da-da. Everybody loves a dame.
When you're in Panto.
When I was in Panto, Widow Twanky. Widow Wanky.
Do you know, I was trying to...
Me and Christopher Biggins, I tell you, mate, we're like that.
Yeah, I bet. Of course you are. I was going to try and keep it sensible and get all this laughter out, but you've told me that we've got to get straight into it today because of your Tinternet.
Because the old Tinternet's playing up, yeah.
I know. And then... there was a list, wasn't there, of other stuff that we were going to talk about, and I think you put it on the Telegram, and I was meant to have a look at that.
Well, we're going to have a little look into... Sarah's going to talk... She's been seeing some more things going on through her job and through events that she's been going to.
Events.
Well,
it's not like I go to any big events.
No, but
it's just things like barbecues. I'm not...
Yeah, and the football, the soccer.
Yeah.
Two of those, barbecue and soccer, that's events. That's more than one.
Right, okay.
There's an S on the end.
Dues.
Right, but anyway, she's gonna talk a little bit about some of the things that she's been seeing, because I don't go out, so I don't see anything anyway. We're also going to talk about my friend's video, which is part of the music thing. My dear friend, who's put out an amazing video, which pretty much sums it all up. So over to you, Captain.
So I'm going to ask a question, basically, and then I'm going to let Gary talk for about an hour while I drink coffee and stroke Bob the cat and just listen.
Like a James Bond villain.
Yeah, exactly. I do look a bit James Bond villainy, to be honest. That's the look I'm going for. Yeah, okay, so let's get on with it. So my first question for you, Gary, and this will get you talking. How old were you when you first got into music?
9.
Is that it? Just one word answer.
That's it. No, I was 9. My dad, he was in the Air Force and he played in the Air Force band, the old side drum. And a friend of mine, and I remember his name was Russell Good, and he was one of these kids that sort of had pretty much everything. He had a motocross bike and all that when he, schoolboy scramblers and all that, and he had a drum set. And I went round to see him and had a bang on his drum set, and I was like, yeah, I like this, So without going into too much and keeping it too long, my dad, who was also into drums, even though he wasn't a drummer, bought me a drum set, and I've basically been unemployed and poor ever since. No, but he bought me a drum set. We lived at the time. We lived in Byfleet in Surrey. I remember I was fishing one day. I think I was with my brother fishing or something, and a guy on a bicycle pulled up next to us and said, "Hello, little boys, what are you doing?" Pulled up on a bike and said, I hear that you. Well, he was only. I think he was like a year older than me or something. But said, "You play the drums, right? We're putting a band together." So anyway, that I joined this little sort of school band, and that was really pretty much how I sort of started off on the drummer's path. Obviously just as a sort of hobby with no real aspirations at the time of that's what I wanted to do, and then. Played at a couple of school discos, as you do. Just got up whilst they were playing like Mud and Tiger Feet and all that kind of stuff. And banged along to some records with the DJ, and it kind of went on from there, really.
So you didn't have any lessons then when you were a young child?
No, I went to one drum lesson at junior school, which was a guy with a snare drum, which is the kick drum and the snare drum are the two main drums. And I thought, well, this isn't going to do me any good. I'll sit down and play some songs, So I basically taught myself. Yeah. And then I remember when I was in a secondary school. I think I told you this before. I was one of the first boys in an all-girls. It was a girls' grammar school that became a comprehensive school. So the first year were all girls, second year were girls and boys, fourth, fifth and so on were all girls, right? So they had a school disco, and I played at it, and of course they never had anything like that at this, because it was, so being a bit sort of prim and proper grammar schoolish. Even then the reaction was quite good, and I thought, wow, I think I could actually do this,
Yeah. No, I've not heard that story. So was it a grammar school when you went there as well?
Oh, your voice has suddenly speed up, sound like Mickey Mouse. Hello.
That's it.
Oh, you're back now.
Is it speeded up now?
Yeah, it was going like that just now.
Okay.
That's weird, isn't it? Anyway, so so that's really kind of how it started off.
And then loving the attention from all the girls, I bet as well.
Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, that was it. It's like, wow, if you play in a band, you can get girlfriends and stuff like that. It's the stupidity of how you looked at it. But I don't think that we, even as I sort of...
Not stupid, is it? That's what most young people are like, isn't it?
Well, if you do something that's sort of interesting or seems to be interesting and so on, something that somebody sees on TV, it's the TV thing, isn't it? It's that what you're shown on television. Yeah. But after that... we moved to Hastings, and ironically enough, I get stuck in an all-boys school. Brilliant.
So were they both grammar schools then?
No, they originally were supposedly grammar schools, but not like the grammar schools that you see in films and TV series and stuff like that. They were basically splitting up boy and girl schools and putting them all into a comprehensive. When we moved to when we moved to Hastings, my form teacher, he was a bass player in a folk group called the Tell'em Tinkers. He said to me, I know a band that are looking for a drummer. So I went to see these guys who were older than me. They actually became quite a well-known band in Hastings. Or prior to it, they were a fairly well-known band. Anyway, I went and joined this band. I wasn't really old enough to go to these venues, so they used to hide me out the back, just in case the police turned up. Yeah. And then we would play these gigs, And ironically, one of the guys who was involved, it was a guy called Huggy Lever, and Huggy is
Yeah.
he's quite a well-known, not well-known actor, but he was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and that Guy Ritchie movie and all that kind of stuff, and I still keep
Yeah.
in touch with him. But there was a whole group of us, that just played in different bands, but I never really did the cover band thing. I always played in original bands,
So were you always self-taught then?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Yeah.
You never had any lessons, or
No.
you were just completely self-taught?
Yeah.
That must be was that how it always was, or
Well, I mean,
is that unusual?
Well, there's been an emphasis over the last 20 years that you should go to music school and you should go to production school and all this kind of stuff. And I think there's a big benefit in it, but I also think a lot of people that go to these, like, the Guitar Institute, and then years later you find out they're just playing in a bar band, and you still have to have, if you haven't got, no one can teach you to have a creative mind, right?
No.
So someone can teach you how to do all the fiddly widdly stuff and so on, but if you can't if you can't create, all you're going to do is copy other people. And that's, I could have gone to learn to play jazz, jazz drumming, which is a different animal, which is something that I missed out on. But I don't think I needed to go to learn to play drums. I taught myself how to play drums.
Yeah.
And popular music drums, like I can play some of the technical stuff, but I taught myself to play boom chap, but which is basis of all radio music, 4/4 beat and so on.
Yeah.
But to expand on that, if I'd wanted to learn to play jazz from a jazz professional, that's the kind of thing that I would have gone to, whereas it's like with my studio work, I've taught myself. I don't really need some guy at some event, me spending 7 days with 15 other people whilst this guy shows you what he would do, and then me trying to incorporate that in what I would do. My idea was to try and find out myself and be self-explanatory, really, I suppose.
That's brilliant, 'cause you need a lot of dedication, don't you, and passion for what you're doing to keep going, really, and keep learning, which I don't think is, I'm not saying all young people now, but it's different, isn't it? It's a different ball game with everything now, and people's mindsets are different, aren't they?
I told you about before when I was doing the stuff with the schools. If you look at anything to do with creativity, whether it's being a chef, whether it's designing clothes, whether it's doing music, whatever it is, creativity, somebody can show you how to do something, you go, oh, that's brilliant, I hadn't thought about that. But then you've still got to take it and incorporate it in what you do. And I know some people, but I know of people who've gone to, like the LA Music Institute or something like that for a year, just like people who go to uni. If you just look at it the same way as people that go to uni, nobody can teach you how to use your brain or what to do with it, right? They can show you what to do with the tools, but if you don't have the enthusiasm and energetic,
and the drive,
being shown how to do all these things is relevant. And again, in my sort of business, or the business that I've been in, there's been this term which we used in our prepping thing, which is all the gear and no idea. And in music, people seem to think that the better the gear you've got, the more the gear you've got, the better you are, and yet a lot of these people don't even know where the on button is.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can't even get going in the first place,
You've got to have the drive, haven't you, and the passion. It's like with anything that you do, you've got to go all in.
Yeah.
You can't just be this. I always think with anything, you've got to go all in. There's no point just doing half-assed with anything that you do.
No, it's right.
You don't get anything from it, do you?
No.
You just kind of like going through the motions. So yeah, I get you on that. So, who were your earliest influences? Like, what sort of bands did you used to like?
Well, as you know, I got into the rock thing, right? I was never into that before. I was like Simple Minds, Tears for Fears, Duran Duran, Japan.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing, that was my thing. Keyboards, I love keyboards, So Gary Newman, all those synth Britain bands, OMD, all that kind of stuff. But the very first band I went to see, believe it or not, I went to see a band called Darts. Do you remember Darts? They did the
no. What were the songs?
They did The Boy from New York City. ooh, cool, cool kitty, tell us about the boy from New York. Yeah, they were like a sort of 50s sort of style band. That was the first band I ever went to see. And I was still at school then. But then, I just started getting into... I was a huge In Excess fan. That was my band. When after the sort of...
I was as well.
Cheesy image. I mean, I'm still a big Simple Minds fan. I just think that the two guys, Jim and Charlie, are just brilliant. But In Excess, that was it. I went to see In Excess at Guildford Civic Hall, and I was like, this is it. You know, John Farris, the drummer. The drummer was my man. I'm like, that's the kind of drummer that I aspire to. I think the guy, because there were three brothers, you know, the Farris brothers and everything. So I went to see them 4 or 5 times, and then I saw them in the States and so on. And I was like, this is what it's all about. And then the sort of 87 came along, and the Whitesnake 87 album came out, which I knew a bit about those bands. I was like, oh, this looks good. Guys who look like girls.
That was the beginning of your journey into the whole guys that look like girls thing. And
that was the whole thing. Yeah, we never got quite to the sort of the glammy sort of thing, but Deep Purple, Ian Gillan, all that lot. I was never a sort of I didn't like everybody. I wasn't like one of these gung ho rock guys that likes every single rock band that ever came out. I was quite picky and choosy, but you know, I really liked the big drum sets with the double kick drum and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do now, and the stick twirling and, you know, putting on a show, being a showman, and those bands were doing that. That's what those bands were all about, but they just happened to have that 80s 90s big hairdo type of, you know, everything, all clothes that look like they've been sprayed on, you know, cowboy boots over the top of these bloody sort of lycra-esque. I was never really an Iron Maiden fan or anything like that, you know. I got drawn more towards the American side of those bands.
Well, they were quite glamorous, weren't they?
Yeah, and some of them still are, and they shouldn't be anymore. They've gone a bit too far, do you know what I mean?
Oh gosh, no! I used to really like Guns N' Roses and In Excess, Bon Jovi. I used to have all of his stuff, right from all the New Jersey stuff and all of that. Yeah, I've turned it into me now, haven't I?
No, of course not. Of course not. It's because it is about, you know, what we sort of grew up on and so on, you know.
Yeah. I wore the cowboy boots, still do.
Yeah, nothing wrong in that.
Still got loads of hats. I used to wear hats a lot, and I've still got loads. Oh my gosh, I've had loads of different hairdos and different things over the years. But yeah, it's just took me back to those days. Just as you were mentioning them, they were good, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, we did. Like I said, we did all that. And I played in a band before I really got into that. You know, American rock, the sort of hair metal or whatever they want to call it. I played in a band, and it was the first band I went to London with, and we had a sort of like a deal, or the main writer had a deal with a company called Pierce Other Music in Denmark Street, and it was a big publishing company. So back then, if you could get a publishing deal, that was even better than getting a record deal, because your music was published and then could be offered to other artists. So let's just say Joe Bloggs wrote this song. They gave it to, I don't know, somebody who was pretty hot at the time, you know, I don't know, some Top of the Pops, been on Top of the Pops a load of times, and they would say, and they would buy the song, and then the writer would then be given, every time that song was played, the bulk of the money went to the writer, not to the artist that you see on telly, right? And that's why you see, like, you know, with Elton John, he has a writing partner, Bernie Taupin, you know, and Bernie writes all the songs, all the lyrics, and Elton does the music, you know, and they've been a team ever since. So even though a lot of people don't know Bernie Taupin, he made a lot of money, but he never ever performed, you know. So at that time,
Elton's done all right though, hasn't he?
Well,
even though he's not written songs, he's not done too bad. Really.
Well, it's a good duo. It's like there were a lot of duos at the time, you know. I mean, Tears for Fears were a duo, you know, and I mean they didn't do bad either. Obviously, nothing on the lines of what Elton's done. But a guy that was in the band, there's a guy called Alistair. He was the first person I ever moved into a flat with, into an apartment with, when I joined this band. Yeah. And he later married Paul McCartney's daughter. So that's where my sort of very minor connection with that world came in. He's not married to her anymore.
Yeah.
But he was a great guy, Alistair. We had a lot of fun together back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. Just one thing transversed into another, and then after that, all folded up. So I moved back home, and then started it all again. Started putting it all together again, not really knowing what I wanted to do until the sort of mid-'80s rock thing came along, and I was going, right, that's what I want to do. So I'm going to, because pretty much everything after that I kind of put together or was a major instigator in putting it together. Maybe that's why it always failed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But all the projects that we've tried
Yeah, but it's, well, how do you class fail? You know, not necessarily failed.
Well,
because...
not fail. It's all part of the journey. But normally what happens is you get everything going just right, and then somebody decides they're going to start playing up. So you go, right, well, we're not having any more of this. It's just like, you know, if you look at everything as a business, if you open a restaurant and everything's going peachy and your chef starts cocking around, it's going to cause a problem. And pretty much, and this is anybody who's been involved in this semi-professionally or professionally would tell you the same story. There's always one that has to upset the apple cart, you know.
But that's everything in life, don't you think?
Everything. This is the point I'm getting at, is that people seem to think if you're involved in music and bands, you're just having a laugh. Yeah, you're rocking it out. No, it's a business. That's why it's called the music business. It's a business just like everything else.
Yeah.
We had a band. We had a company write reviews on us and stuff like that, and it was all going well. And then the guitarist started mucking about. So then we had to find another guitarist, and by the time we found another guitarist, the bass player started mucking about, and it just went on and on and on and on and on.
Mucking about.
Yeah, just mucking about, like you know, we'd go to rehearsal and
not turning
and they
up
wouldn't
and
turn
stuff,
up, and they were lying under a table in a pub somewhere, passed out, and you know, and it's like, oh, I can't come in because I'm drunk in a pub, you know, and you're like, well, that isn't going to work, is it? Yeah, I had a band. I was in a band, which was really what I would call my first professional band, which was very much like Tears for Fears and Simple Minds. And I'm actually, after 40 years, talking to the guys again, and none of us were professional musicians, but we did really well, and we had a manager and everything, and we're actually working on a song, an old song, just for ourselves, just for fun, to put out. And I suddenly realised how good we were back then, and I was like 17, and the other guys, Dave's like a year older than me, Colin and a guy we called Rags, his name's Mike, they're like 60 now, and they haven't played in years, and they sent me some files, and I'm like, you still got it. You know, you still got it, and you know, so it's just it's just like with everything. You just got to keep trying. You know, you got to just keep finding new ways to do the things you like to do. You know,
and I think you go through. It's like with any profession or any kind of team or group or anything. There's just ups and downs, isn't there? Yeah. You can have like a magical part for a few months, and then somebody, like you say, throws a spanner in the works because life happens, shit happens, you know, lose their way a bit, and then everything else goes off track, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It's coming back or finding different things and going in a slightly different direction, or finding ways to kind of resolve it. But like you say, you know, but get somebody new in, but then they've got to fit in again, haven't they? And kind of fit in with everybody and find their way and find their flow. And not everybody...
It's just like running a restaurant. That's all it is. You know, and if you don't have mishaps, like we've said, you're never going to be able to work out whether something is really going well or not, you know, because you've got to have... What used to annoy me with not annoy me so much, but a lot of times when people it did come to the point where you had to say, well, look, I'm sorry, but, you know, we can't do this. You know, we can't keep putting up with this. They get all offended, and then they turn nasty. You know, and you're like, well, we didn't put you in this position. You put yourself in that position. You know, and as I said, with anything to do with entertainment, so many people think that it's just about going out and having a laugh but you had a good time, didn't you? And it's like, yeah, but there is still a lot of work that goes into this. You know, and I think if people realise themselves, you know, the amount of work that goes into anything creative, you know, as a general rule, I think like 1% get to a place where they can say, well, I'm actually making a living out of it. And that's all I ever wanted to do. I just thought, you know what, if I could make a few quid out of this and enjoy what I'm doing, I didn't have really aspirations of, you know, oh, I'm going to be in a magazine, or I'm going to be doing this, or, you know, I'm going to be rubbing shoulders with these people and so on. We knew that kind of thing could happen, but that wasn't what we were doing it for.
Anyway, so then the next thing I was going to ask about was your time in schools and how that came about.
Right.
And you were going into the schools.
Yeah. Well,
I know that's something you're proud of.
Well, it was, I would say...
So you should be.
I would say it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah, I am proud of what we did, considering it was, you know, pretty much thrown together. But I moved to the States in, I think it was end of 98. And I'd been out there a number of times with a couple of projects, met some people, and I met a guy from Warner Brothers in Nashville. And he's a bit of a legend, right? His name's Bob Saporiti. And he's just the coolest bloke, right? But he knew it. He'd done everything. I don't know, you know. I mean, he's a songwriter. He's how old is he now? He's got to be 75, 80 now. But I got to know him. He said to me, "Well, you know, I can help you get your visa." So I got a visa to go to the States. It's called an Artist O1 visa. So I could go there and work legally, you know. And I'd sold a house in England. I got divorced first, then sold the house. Didn't sell the house and then get divorced. Yeah. You know, he said to me, "Well, I can help you get your visa, but that's about all I can really do, you know. The rest of it's down to you." And that was in Nashville. And then, again, cut a long story short, I ended up in New Mexico, just outside Santa Fe. I was sort of like not a bigger fish in a smaller pond, but I wasn't going to get eaten up and spat out as if I'd gone to LA or anything like that. I bought this little house up in the East Mountains, right in between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, which literally was falling down. And I thought, well, I can do this up. I won't have to pay rent. I just bought it. It was the price of a second-hand car. It was ridiculous. I thought, right, what's the first thing I can do? Drum lessons, right? So I went down to a few music shops, and then I got involved with a guy who got me on the radio, on the local radio there. I put this drum lesson package together, and I got some drum students. And then one of my drum students, who I can't remember his name now, but this guy, his wife was a teacher for one of the, what we call, you know, the middle schools. And she said, would you come in? Would you be interested in coming in to do a Careers Day show? We've got like the police come in, model agency, we've got hotels coming in, you know, and all this kind of stuff. I said, yeah, but is it really appropriate to be sort of, you know, hey kids, bang a drum, you know, you're going to drive I always said, you're going to drive your parents up the wall, drive your neighbours mad, probably never make any money. Everyone's going to tell you to get a proper job. You know that one, right? So I thought, I wonder how I could put a spin on it and basically do, like we said, about, say, you know, what they see on television. And, of course, a lot of kids aspire to, the work and everything that goes in behind the scenes, and how many other jobs there are, everyday jobs, from security, catering, carpenters, you know, electricians, camera people, everything that you can imagine behind a concert or a TV show that you might watch. So anyway, so I went in, it was really successful. There was about 8 kids came in, right? So the following year, they asked me if I would do it again. So it was about a year in between. The next time I went, I'd met this guy called Scott, and he was quite well known in Albuquerque area. He was a sound engineer and played a bit of bass and so on. And he came with me. Well, this time 8 had sort of turned into 30 kids. They all wanted to come and see the English music guy, because the attraction wasn't what I was going to tell them. The attraction was a big drum set and a load of noise, you see. But it started to escalate from there, and a couple of other schools had heard what I was doing. And I'd met a guy who was a photographer, and he said, why don't we put together a program? And he knew a lot of the schools, and he said, no, I'll take it to the schools for you. So I said, well, brilliant, you know. So we literally went from like eight children in a middle school to anything from 300 up to 1,000 kids at a time. And we basically, all we did was we got up, we played a bit of music, and we talked about the reality of getting up in the morning and going out and doing something. And the TV picked it up, and a music store picked it up, and they sort of sponsored us, and then I got involved in some of the Indian reservation schools, which was pretty cool thing to be doing, you know, sort of little shrimpy white guy from a fishing village now out on Indian reservation, you know, with all these Indian kids and stuff, and quite a humbling experience as well. And I think we didn't do a ton of them, but we did like 12 major events, and then every month we did one at the music store, which was for everybody. So we do basically what they call a drum clinic, and then people come in and ask questions and so on. But I really kind of kept it. I never directed it towards music and drumming. You know, musos go to these things and they're asking about all the drumming stuff and so on. And you know, I'm a good drummer, but I'm not one of these, you know, technical, what they call rudimentary type of guys or girls that are amazing. You know, I just wanted to explain how, again, for me, timing is important. I cannot deal with people who are late. It drives me nuts. And I don't mind 10 minutes either side, but if you keep me waiting 45 minutes, then I'm afraid I'm going to get the ump. It's as simple as that, because, you know, as I used to say to these kids...
I'm just thinking of this morning when I give you a time.
Yeah, but you let me know, you see. You let me know. It's these people that don't let you know, right? And you're sitting there waiting in a parking lot, you know, and an hour later you're still waiting and you've heard nothing.
Oh, no, that winds me up as well.
I said, what does a drummer do? And of course, they you rock, man, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, a drummer is a timekeeper. You know, the drummer is a metronome. The drummer keeps time for the band. How can you be a great timekeeper in the band if you're always late for rehearsal? You know, it's double standards again. And so many people in so many businesses lose their jobs because they're unreliable. So that was the emphasis on how, you know, to interact with people. And you'll find, like, with so many things, it's like you can have somebody, let's say you have a brilliant chef in a restaurant. You have a brilliant guitarist in a band, and both of them are making money. But if the chef or the guitarist is really difficult to get on with, is that going to work? It might work for a while, but I would prefer to have somebody that wasn't so great at what they did, but was so enthusiastic and would continue to learn and become that great chef or that great guitarist.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Had the right characteristics.
Yeah. You know, as we said before, and I've said on a couple of other things, you know, this other friend of mine, Scott, who was a child psychologist, he said, we're going to call it Gary's Pillars of Success. And there were 5 points, you know: having the right tools for the job, learning how to use those tools, being reliable, being the kind of person that you want to be around, and also be the kind of person that can guide others, you know. And if you can do those 5 things, or even 3 of those 5 things, you're going to be on a great path to helping other people and continuing to work in your own business.
You've got to have the motivation, haven't you, and the self-respect and the self-discipline and all of that. And I think either people have got that really, or they haven't. Yeah. I know it can be taught, but often it's taught from young, isn't it? But you have to have a lot of drive in you, I think, as well, and be able to. It's that grit and resilience, isn't it? Be able to get back up when things get tough. Yeah. And think, I'll learn from that, dust myself off, and I'll carry on. Yeah. Rather than just give up and throw in the towel that you see a lot of people.
Bob did an interview years and years ago in this local pub, a little pub in Nashville that was run by a bass player for Roy Orbison. Ran this pub. Who was an English guy, really nice bloke, retired. You know, he packed in music and put his money into this English pub. And Bob did an interview down there, and he said the reason that most people fail is because they give up. Right? It's got nothing to do with the talent or anything like that. You know, you've got to have a talent in one form or another. You can't, you know, unless you're one of these socialites, you know, famous for being famous. But he said, you know, there are some amazing people out there, but they give up. But we also know that for a lot of people, 99%, they'll never get to what they see on the television because they're not part of a certain club. So there is that to consider as well. But a lot of the musicians...
And it depends how you perceive... Yeah, it depends how you perceive success or failure, doesn't it, as well?
I mean, success, like I said, to me, success is being able to get up and do what you love to do every day.
Something you love.
And be able to pay your bills. You know, you've got to be... this is the thing that I've had this this with people for years. They know that this is my business, but they still expect, and they don't realise they're doing it, but they still expect you to be cutting corners for them, oh, I won't charge him for this and I won't charge him for that and so on, And then when you tell them and remind them that actually I have to keep the electric on, they sort of get thrown, But to me it was always like, hey, if I can do this and be creative, this is more from a production basis now as opposed to just, if I was going to make a living out of playing drums, it wouldn't happen. Everybody will do it for free. People, I'll do it for you for nothing. So when you say to them, well, this is going to cost you $50, they go, oh, really? But from a production point of view, which is obviously what I do more of now, working on other people's material, which is brilliant, there also is a lot of discipline in that, because you've got to come downstairs, whatever, you're not going out to do it, come downstairs and get on with it, and be able to deliver a product that people are happy with. So like I said, for me, it was if I could get up and do this and pay my bills, that's it for me. I don't need to be doing anything else. I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. Anything that comes above that is a bonus, isn't it? It's a plus.
Yeah.
A sponsorship. I mean, I've got a number of sponsorships which came from this, like software and symbols and things like that. And that was a bonus. But I used to get people contact me and go, they call it endorsements, right? You're endorsing a product. Hey, how'd you get an endorsement with for all this free gear? And I would always say to them, this gear's not free. I've worked for like 30 years to get this stuff. They're not going to give you. They're not going to give you free stuff, if you want to call it free. They're not going to give you free stuff when you have no presence out there. You've got to have a presence. They've got to see what you're about and so on. The same again as having a restaurant. It's no good having a great restaurant with a great menu if nobody knows the restaurant's there. That's a big 10-4, good buddy. Over.
I was allowing you to say. I was allowing you to talk. I was listening there. I thought there was some more coming. There was some more little pearls of wisdom there about life in general coming there. But no, I completely see all that. I've always said to my both my girls, but the older one particularly, who's coming up to 15 now, with her football, her passion for football, and when she started on the journey with like loving it, sort of age 8 or 9.
Yeah.
She, at that point, girls' teams were just starting to emerge, grassroots girls' teams, not many of them. She would play football at lunchtime with the boys. Not many girls played at that point. And, she would get roughed up sometimes, and not passed to and all that. And I said to her, if you love it, you keep going, you show them, you be better than them. By the end of junior school, she was, because she was in a girls' academy. And she could run rings around them, but she had to trial with a few hundred girls. She had to put herself through that, and that's tough going. That's all tough going to be selected, about 12 of them, given contracts, and then they have to keep up. They have to show all those. They're big on the whole resilience, dedication, turning up at every training session on time and everything, because if you do anything that isn't, then the whole team goes down, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Now where she's at now, which obviously like women's football has gone massive, hasn't it, with all the Euros and everything, and it's built. Her and another girl, is probably 2 that were left from right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And we've seen some really good players that were like almost like the star of the show, move on because their hearts weren't in it. They weren't turning up at training. They didn't keep up a certain standard of fitness and all of that. So it kind of, those characteristics and that grit and resilience have to be there, don't they, in everything?
Yeah.
Otherwise it doesn't continue, and it has to come from that person. No one else can give it you. It's either...
Well, this is. I think this is why one of the things that really gets my goat. And we talked about this before. Is all this business about? There's no winners in our school. There's no winners on our team. Everyone's a winner, right? Again, that's one of the stupidest fucking comments I've ever heard come out of any.
It means that people then don't have to try, doesn't it?
Don't bother. Just don't bother. That's what it says, right? I mean, what they should
Yeah, I
teach,
know. Don't try. Anyone can do it.
yeah, what they should teach, the first phrase or sentence or line they should teach anybody that's looking to get into anything really is there's always somebody 1 inch behind you to step into your shoes. It's as simple as that. The second you piss somebody off or cock something up, there's 10 people behind you that are equally as capable as you are. But when you start to believe your own press, which is what a lot of people do, they start to believe that they're greater than they are.
Yeah.
I've always said, like for me, that if it wasn't for songwriters and musicians, I'd have nothing to do, right? I mean, I can play a bit of guitar and I can sing and whatever. I'm not a writer. I don't write melodies and tunes. That's not my thing. I can do it, but that's not my thing. Everybody that I've worked with over especially the last 20 years, I would say, they're really good at what they do. And what I try and do is enhance what they do, right? I mean, I've got this friend, Lucio.
Yeah.
Big hand out to Lucio, greatest musician I know. Bass player. Plays mean guitar, but bass player, super lovely guy, lives in Sardinia. Me and him have played on well over 200 odd tracks now together through the internet. I played in a band with him for a little while, but he is just the most lovely bloke, and his passion for music, I've never known anybody like him, and he makes me weep. He sends me something and it's so brilliant. And I'm like, I don't know how this guy does this. And he's only a young bloke. I don't even think he's 35 yet. He's had some tough times. His mum died when he was quite young and all this kind of thing. But he's a real trooper. And he's a real, I hate the term rock star because we know what that's all about. But he is a quintessential rock star without being a rock star. He's not interested in, he's got a great image, but he's not an I am. He's just, we've had from, say, bass guitar. So I do a track. I get a rough track done, I send it to a bass player, and 3 weeks later I'm still waiting for the bass player to send it back. Then I met Lucio and I send it to him, and within an hour it's done and back, finished. We did an album for a client, and he did 14 tracks in one day. And we're not talking about dum 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 dum. We're not talking about that. We're talking about musical bass genius without it being technical. Just phenomenal. I've never met in my whole career anybody who can do what this guy can do, and he should be working on major recordings. He's that good. But of course, what do people go? Oh yeah, but he's Italian, mate. He's Italian. They only want English or Americans. You know what I mean? It's that stigma again. If you're not from the country that has the big awards, so he's on his little island, and but I've never met anybody like him. I don't know any other musician that even comes close to how good and how enthusiastic and how somebody is. I've put his track, I put his bass track in to one of the songs we're working on. I just sit there and I just literally, I got a lump in my throat, and it makes me feel so good. And that's just the bass guitar. That's what most people think of, the muffled hum in the background, But big kudos to my mate, and again, he's another one of a very, very small group of people that I'm proud to know and to be able to call my friend.
It's some people, it's just that they're magical, aren't they? And it comes right from their being. They've had to put the work in, but there's the magic with them, isn't there? They're
born with it. It's a gift. It's a gift. That's what it is.
Yes. And you can't bottle that, can you?
No, I would say there's probably 2-3 maximum people that I could say. I'm 57 now. Yeah. If I said I've been doing this sort of semi-professionally and professionally since I was 20, I would say there's probably 3 people that I could put my hand up and say they're the go-to people to do this. But the rest of them, they're all good in their own right, but they don't.
But they're ticking all the boxes, like you say, the efficiency, the passion, everything that they've got.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with a lot of, especially in the rock scene, it's become a sport. You're supposed to be competing to show what you can do, but it's become a sport. It's like, who plays the fastest at this? Who's the fastest that? And when you actually listen back to commercial music that is played on the radio, it's not fast. It's not competitive. It's just simple, catchy music. You know, that's what I prefer. And Lucio, he's played on metal albums with me. He's played on rock songs. He's played on music for television. He's played on country. That AGD album I sent you, that's Lucio on there. And yet I know musicians who go, yeah, I don't want to play on that, mate. It's like country rubbish, isn't it? And it's like, really? Okay, then, well, you just lost $5,000. Oh, you know what I mean? He loves to play music.
He just loves music.
Period.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
He has his preference. Yeah. He is a metal guy. He is a rock guy, but he adds something special to anything.
Brings that uniqueness to.
That's right. Which you don't get with perhaps some other people who still do a brilliant job. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't. They do, but there is something special, and that's my go-to guy. If anyone wants somebody, that's the guy I go to. You know, because I know he does not he'd have to be dead to let you down.
Yeah. Oh, he does sound incredible.
Anyway, enough about talking about him. What about me? Me.
Can we have more on Lucio, please? I think I might ditch you for Lucio.
Yeah.
Next week, is he available?
He's much cooler and better looking than I am.
He's
anyway,
reliable.
So, yeah, he's much better looking than me. Fucking guy. It's like, makes me sick.
Sound of him.
Makes me sick. I look at him, I'm like, you bastard.
We need to put a picture. We need to get some pictures on.
I'm going to
I'll
put
make
some
sure
pictures
I check
in.
that video out.
Yeah, I'm going to put some pictures in of the boy. He's an absolute gem. He really is. So
The next part. God, it's hard. It's hard steering this ship, isn't it? It's back to me.
It's back to you, Captain.
Right. So we did your mate Luch that I like the sound of. We were thinking about, was it tours that we were talking? We got to your time in America, didn't we?
Yeah.
Heading back to Europe.
Yeah.
And your time touring and touring tales from Gary.
Yeah.
And you... that's it. Right. Off you go.
So I was in the States on and off for nearly 8 years, and then I got stiffed by a lawyer who was doing my visa, my second visa. It was such a performance that I just basically said, I'm not doing this. You know, it was a lot more to it than just that. But I knew that really that that time had come to an end, and it was time to do something else. So again, cut long story short, went back to England for about 6 months. After being out in the States, I wasn't going to do that again. I've been out of the UK for such a long time. And then we ended up moving to France, where we are now. I've been here 16 years. But the first couple of years that we were here, and I mean me and my mum and my gran, because basically my mum and my gran, we basically bought this barn between us as a family home, with the idea of my brother coming a little bit later when he retired and so on. My gran, who's no longer here, but who's a French woman. So it's been brilliant for my mum as well. Keeps my mum young. Yeah. But for a couple of years, I didn't really know what I was going to do next. And another guy that I worked with, who I forgot to mention, a guy called Rick Hale in Albuquerque, he kept pushing me. He kept get your studio sorted out. Get a studio sorted out, just so you can record drums. You know, whatever. So I did in the end, and I got a few little jobs. You know, drum work and things like that and so on. And it just evolved from there to the studio situation I've got now. But while I was sitting around thinking, well, what am I going to do? Getting the fidgets, I suddenly thought to myself, well, I wonder if I start contacting some people from back in the day, you know, singers and that, we could put something together, and perhaps we could go out and take one of these solo artists out again, you know. Perhaps somebody who wasn't doing as much as they used to, and anyway, I thought, again, more to do with the rock scene, and I contacted a couple of people. One of the people that I contacted was a vocalist singer called Lynn Turner, JLT. And Joe, he had a solo career, and he was the singer for Rainbow with Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple, and he also then became the singer for Deep Purple. Brilliant singer. He's worked with countless people, you know. And I contacted him, very surprised to hear back from his assistant at the time, and I threw an idea at him, and he liked the idea, and he said to me, his old term was, "Do you think this has legs? Do you think we can run with this?" You know, and I said, "Well, yeah, I think we could. And the idea was to take some of the older songs, rev them up a little bit, and maybe get a younger audience interested in the sort of classic rock, slightly cross over with it. Not modernise it, but make it a little bit less sort of dated sounding. That was the idea.
Yeah.
And anyway, I started working on that, and I started putting out feelers in Europe, and I couldn't really get anything going. And then I met through another musician from Nashville, a guy called Andy Robbins, a bass player from California, who lived in Phoenix. And this guy said to me, contact Andy, you know, he might be the kind of guy you're looking for. You know, he was in the business for a long time. So I contacted him, and he happened to be married to a Brazilian woman. And Andy said, look, I think we could get Joe. Joe's been to Brazil loads of times. I think we could get him out in Brazil and maybe go over there for like a good few months, not just for three dates or something like that. So again, cut a long story short, took us about a year. Andy did a lot of work, and we basically put a band together, and I went out there for 3 months, rehearsed with the band, and then Joe flew out and off we went. So I'm now playing with a guy that I'd actually been to see live, you know, and there we were, you know, together. It was brilliant, right? And we were there, the first time we were there for 3 months. Joe wasn't there for the full 3 months, but we were there for 3 months. Had a brilliant time, and anybody who's been out and played in South America and Brazil particularly, I mean, the audiences they're just brilliant. I mean, they just love music. They'll go and see a classic rock act one night, then they'll go and see some pop act the next night, and so on. And it's expensive for them as well, because in Brazil it's very, very expensive. The import tax is ridiculous. So people are paying in their money, because you know they're using the money that they earn. They were paying huge amounts of money to go and see some of these bands. But anyway, we did that. That's how I got to know Joe. That was 2009, and then the following year we went out and did it again. So we were out there twice, you know. After that, you know, Joe went off to do other things and so on, but we had a brilliant time, and that pretty much was what I would say was my last, what I would call proper touring, you know, the bus and all this kind of stuff. And then when I came back, that's how I ended up getting involved with, you know, more with the studio stuff and working for other people. A girl we worked with in Australia, and meeting Lucio through another band and so on. And I focused more on that. And I felt I didn't really need to go away anymore. You know, I'd sort of done my bit of travelling, and I was quite happy being where I am, you know. But so that's how. But Brazil is such a brilliant place, and they are amazing people. And everyone's different. Like when you go down south, it's completely different to up north, just like it is in England and anywhere else, you know. And we went up to Manaus. We played up in Manaus, up in the Amazon, and it's just fantastic, you know.
Sounds brilliant. Do you want? I mean, I think we've talked for. I've no idea how long we've talked for. Probably quite some time.
An hour.
Right. Have you? Are you happy that you've talked enough about?
Well, like I said, with the music thing, you know, I still work with people here. Still working with a guy that I've worked with for many years, who's had, you know, countless radio plays and stuff like that. And we're just ordinary bods. We're not, you know, we're not part of that lot that we keep mentioning. You know, I'll put some links to some of the people I work with and with Lucio, and you can check it out and so on. But what I wanted to bring up, going more to the serious stuff that we've talked about recently, I sent you a video, didn't I, of Joe's new record. Joe's new record.
Oh yes, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So you were saying that he was one of the people that was aware of when it all kicked off in 2020.
Yeah. He
was somebody. Well, first I was going to ask you, did you ever notice anything during your career? Was there any? Did you, as we know what we know now?
Yeah.
Did you ever have any awareness at all of any of it going on?
No.
No.
No. I mean, there's a couple of things that came up.
Just shows you, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That just shows you.
Yeah. There was a couple of things that were said to me, like I told you, like a producer said to me, you know, you'll never get anywhere unless you're prepared to sign on the dotted line, type of thing. You know, things like that. We always knew. But you take it in jest, wouldn't you? When you're 19, you know, I mean, I would have said that 99% of all young guys, let's just use the young guys here, At 19
Yeah.
years old, if they were promised the wealth and the fame, and they played in a little local band as a guitarist, and somebody said, we'll give you this much money if you sign on this dotted line, we own you now, 99% of guys at 19 years old would do it. Of course they would, because they don't know any better. They've never been anywhere, so they wouldn't know. You might get the odd one or two that would go, oh, no, I'm not having that. But I would say most people would. I mean, some of the shit that I saw people doing when they weren't getting paid for it, I was like, well, they'll do anything for money, these people. You know what I mean? But I didn't really see any of that because I guess because, one, I wasn't looking for it. It didn't even occur to me. And, of course, again, back in the day, the metal thing, I wasn't involved in that, so I wasn't seeing all this symbolism so much, this devil's horns and all this stuff that you see everybody doing now, including Britney Spears. I mean, what do you think Britney Spears is like a big Metallica fan? Come on. But now it's really come out. It's really come out what it's all about. And to your question about what Joe said, just prior to that, I told you about my friend Spencer. And I'd played in a band with Spencer, and we were involved with Sanctuary Music, which is Iron Maiden's label or management. Spencer moved to Australia, the prison island that is Australia. In 2020, he contacted me. I hadn't heard from him in ages. And he contacted me, and he'd just been on a TV show. And he'd done quite well. But he contacted me, and I'd already seen another guy talking about it, also from Australia. And Spence he just laid out some home truths about what was going on and why. And even though I knew a lot of stuff like all the 9/11 crap, the moon, NASA shenanigans, I knew about all of that.
Did you?
Oh yeah. Well, I knew about. I mean, it's like the man on the moon stuff. I mean, I knew about that 20 odd years ago. Even more than that. But it wasn't something we were ever looking at.
That's interesting, though. That's really interesting, though, isn't it? That you knew all of that, but you didn't know the things that the part that was right in front of your eyes.
I knew that for some reason, these organisations were lying to the public, right? I knew that they wanted to go to the moon, but then they found out they couldn't. So instead of making themselves look stupid, they just made it up. That's the way I looked at it. What I didn't realise at the time was later on they wanted to rub everybody out, which is the bottom line. That's basically what they want to do.
Yeah.
So Spencer told me a bunch of stuff. About 2017, 18, I had a guy I was working with, and we talked about a few things like that, and he thought I was an idiot, like, oh, I don't know where you're getting all this shit from. But we'd all, and I was like, well, you dumb fuck, that's because I've looked at stuff and you haven't. But the thing is that then you quickly start to add two and two together, don't you? And you go, hang on a minute, well, that ties into that and so on, right? But Spence, he said to me, you need to go and look at this, this, this and this. And I did. I went and had a look, and I was like, right.
What did he ask you to look at, like World Economic Forum and
the usual. I mean, as I've said to you, the statement of you will own nothing and you will be happy should have been enough to get the world's population up in arms to deal with it. That's what should have happened. That statement alone, that one statement, whether you take out any of the Bible stuff, whether you take out any of the Agenda 21 stuff, that one line should have been enough for people to say, hang on a minute, who the fuck do you think you are? But they didn't, right? So Spence showed me all that, and then we started delving into it. And then I suppose about a month or two later, I thought, you know what, I'm going to message Joe and see what he thinks. And I hadn't spoken to him for quite a while. And I messaged him, and all I put, and I can show you the email, all I put was, I said, hello, mate, hope you're doing well. So what do you think about this shit show then? And he wrote me back one paragraph, and he literally wrote back to me what I would have written to him.
Yeah.
And then I wrote back to him, and I put some things out. And then he got me to go on to one of these, like Telegram, And he said to me, he said, I always knew you and me were kindred spirits. And I was like, that to me right then was something that really meant something to me as well, because of all the people he knows and all the people he's worked with. And he's honest, he's being honest. He had no reason to say that. He didn't just go, yeah, good job you're on it, mate. He went, I always knew that you and me were kindred spirits. And he told me what was going on. And he said, I'll tell you one day, I'll tell you about some of the things that I was offered.
He's seen enough. Yeah.
Because he was in there. He was in the midst of it, you know, with the biggies. That's when it sort of dawned on me that, well, maybe I need to tell a few of the guys I'm working with, because it was mainly guys I was working with. I worked with this Australian girl who's brilliant, but we'd sort of parted waves, you know. So I said, right, well, I'm gonna message a couple of the guys that I work with who I've been close with for years, and I'm going to tell them, go and have a look at this, go and have a look at that, tell me what you think. And none of them were interested, not one of them. Right? And then another band that I was working with, which was a little bit more like a kind of Oasis, sort of heavy Oasis. It's pretty good stuff. This guy, he'd been to record here, come over from England and everything, and he messaged me and he said to me, he asked me what I thought, you know, about all this that's going on and so on. I said, well, look, mate, just do yourself a favour. Sit down with your missus and have a look at this and get back to me and tell me what you think. And his answer was, nah, I don't want to look at any of that. It's too depressing. And I was like, well, there you go. Bury your head in the sand. And literally since then, apart from Joe and Spence, everybody that I know and knew has gone along with this shit without any question. Not even a question. Not like, here, Gaz, that's a bit dodgy, innit, mate? You know, they're not interested. They're not interested. All they're interested in is their silly little gigs and all this kind of stuff. And, yeah, it'll all be over by Christmas, that kind of odd thing, you know. I was telling, I can't remember who I was talking to, but anyway, and I said, you know, I decided, what about Producers Against Tyranny or something like that? Let's get all the people that run their own studios that have worked hard to buy all this expensive gear to find out that clients don't want to pay you anyway. The struggle with all that. Let me send a bunch of studios a message. I've got a good background, you know. You type my name in, you'll find me. No problem at all. And some of the companies I've worked with, and if there's not, I'm not just like some guy from a local garage band that's, you know, got a chip on his shoulder or something. So I wrote to a bunch of studios, and I wrote to them twice, and I just said, look, guys, you really should look at this, because these people are threatening not just our livelihoods, but take all our shit away, right? How do you feel about that? Not one of them got back to me. Not one of them. And my emails go out through a management site, so you would have at least thought they would have looked, because it's not like it comes from a Gmail or anything like that. It comes from a production site. Not one of them got back to me, right? And we're not talking about emailing Warner Brothers. We're talking about small independent studios, you know, that do like we do, make a bit of money out of what they love to do. Nobody. And then I see these people online all chatting away with each other, you know, talking about their latest bit of gear and all that. It literally has gone vroom, straight over the top of their heads. That's, like we've said before, why you ask yourself the question, why us? Why is it that we can see it and you people can't? And as I said to you, ignorance is no excuse. Well, I didn't know, I haven't got time. Well, how come I knew? How come I knew, you know?
The thing is as well, you know, say people that maybe were aware of agendas, I don't know, 10 years ago or maybe longer, some people, you know, but they could see the lies, but they'd not seen this going, you know, people were thinking, well, this could be coming, weren't they? Because it was all in there, you know. Some people knew this was coming. But if you woke up, you know, you can kind of think, well, all right, 10, 15 years ago, those people didn't want to, like, go and talk to everyone and tell people what was going on. Do you know what I mean? Because they just, like, they looked into it, but actually this wasn't materialised at that point. So it's like you'd question yourself. Do you know what I mean? When this all kicked off in 2020 and actually what you were reading was actually happening before your very eyes, I don't know how you can switch off to it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? If someone warns you, because it was all happening. They were in prison in our own homes, and we were told we can't see. But, you know, all the things that are like red flags, like this is like an attack on what it is to be human.
If you've got, you see, this is the thing, and this is what I said about the terminology. No one's locking you down, they're locking you up, right? They're locking you up, they're making you a prisoner in your own home. When these bastard police are beating people in the streets, right, and loving every minute of it, which they are, Big call out to all of you lot that do that kind of shit. They're coming for you as well, so don't think you're going to get away with it. They'll come for you. They'll round you up, and your families, and your cousins, and your aunties, and your uncles, and your best mate, right? So I hope you're ready to suck that up when it comes knocking on your door, because it is coming, right? When you look at that, and then you've got like this mate of mine that I work with, and he goes, yeah, dark times, mate, right? That's what he said, dark times. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And that's as far as it went. You know, all he's worried about is playing his next little gig at some little festival where everybody's like 60 plus and so on. And it's like, that's what it's come to, is it? It's the maximum of your foresight into what is going on. Well, guess what? You've got a big shock coming to you, buddy. You've got a big shock coming to you. And like I said, you know, was it ignorance is bliss? Ignorance, there's no excuse. Right now, I was saying... No, exactly.
Ignorance in this stage in the game, when you've gone and took the darts, you know.
When you've been to the old Britney Spears concert, yeah.
You've got to have switched on, haven't you, at that point?
I said before, maybe this is the way it's meant to be. Now, I was thinking about it this morning. Now, we've started to get more into the biblical side of things, because a lot of it makes sense. We've said that before, especially with Mr. E, you know, and so on. Hugo's talking about it and so on, and there is a lot in it. I'm not saying it's 100% correct.
Hugo's, he's done a couple of good ones, hasn't he?
Yeah, there's a lot in it. There's a lot in it. We were out having coffee this morning and got quite a high bit where we looked down onto the garden and the fields and everything. And we got a little friendly rabbit, right, that literally comes and stands about 3 or 4 feet away from me. Like if I'm doing something, little rabbit hops out, right? I don't know whether it's a he or a she. Let's just say it's a little she. So little rabbit comes hopping out, and she just sits there nibbling. And she looks at me, and she don't run away or anything like that, right? And I go down to the veg patch, and the rabbits haven't destroyed any of the veg, and they're just nibbling these new bits of grass that are growing through, and it's really nice to see. But this rabbit is right up, almost next to me, you know. And if I go near it, it will run off, but it's not frightened at all. And I looked at that, and I thought, do you know what? Maybe what is going now is the Great Flood. This is the Great Flood. I do not believe that the Creator, God, whatever you want to call it, will destroy all these defenceless little animals just because of the stupidity of mankind. Right? I can't see that. That doesn't make any sense. This cute little rabbit, got the little calves down in the field and everything. You know, why would you want to just kill all that off because mankind is so greedy and self-centered, right? I wonder if, and I'm not saying that we've been singled out to be special at all, but what if this thing that's happening is the modern version of the Great Flood? I'm not saying that is the case, but to me, to watch these, we've got all the swallows here at the moment, you know, and they're all going to be heading down Africa way as the season's starting to come to an end, and we're watching all these amazing birds fly around and pick out little, you know, they're catching their food on the wing and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I do not believe that a creator would want to destroy all that because of the greed of a bunch of stupid people. Because that's what it's come down to. Because if we weren't a bunch of greedy, stupid people, none of this would be happening in the first place. As I've said before, you know.
It's the incredible bit, I think, for me, I've always been spiritual and kind of aware that, things aren't what they seem. Grew up with, fish, a very organic sort of upbringing, fishing, out on a boat, on the river. A really, really great, great childhood, really. Brilliant mum and dad, that just encouraged me to be myself, really, and not follow crowds or, just... So it always felt a little bit different because I was never wanting to follow crowds. I was happy doing my own thing, and I'm that's how I am just in general. But when COVID kicked off in March 2020, I instantly could see things were wrong, and in my work I could see that we can't just stop seeing everybody for, even if you believed in whatever was going on for something, you can't just neglect everybody else and their condition. We can't just not go out and see people that are vulnerable, and we can't just stop all their treatments, and we can't thinking that everybody else would agree with me. Nobody agreed with me. Nobody did dare say anything.
No,
it was just silence. And then the more it was like going off, and then people were, oh, you can't go here and you can't visit and you can't. I'm getting angrier, and I'm kind of going, this isn't right though. Where's the empathy for other people? Where's this? Where's that? And I'm getting quite angry on my teams. No one else, just me. Nobody else in hundreds and hundreds of people in the department the organisation I work in. No one getting angry like me. A couple of people not having on and had the dart.
The Brittany.
The Brittany. But nobody as passionate as me getting angry about it and what we can't do this to people. We can't, so I put myself up for so many bullets there.
Yeah.
Because I was speaking out. And I didn't even realise I was speaking out.
No. Well, you use common sense. I was just saying what... Common sense has been eradicated. Yeah. And as we've said before, how is it possible that in the early, it was 2009, when I went to Brazil, bird flu and swine flu, and nobody went along with it. It has to be something to do with dumb phones. It's got to be. With the Black Mirror, with you don't know what they're doing. It's funny because, as we were talking the other day, I've had a couple of friends here, and they're pretty open-minded to things. One of them thinks we live under a dome. Her husband said there's no way that Kate Middleton had that baby. He said as soon as that presented that baby whilst she was wearing the Rosemary's Baby's dress, from the movie, which it was.
And the moon bump.
Yeah, right.
And the moon bump.
Yeah, that you can get off the internet, And ironically, the company works for the BBC and the UK government. Funny that, isn't it, as clients. He said, I told you straight away there's no way that she's just had that baby. But I showed them a picture. I said, because anybody who's listened in, as you know, me and Sarah are just like #1 fans of Mr. E, right? And has opened us up to just incredible comedy and also... utter debauchery, which is what it is, and I don't care what anybody says about me. So if you don't like what I think, you can fuck off. But I showed them a pic. We got onto the subject about it and had a few glasses of wine in there. Never a good idea. And but they were pretty cool, and they were sort of dangling the carrot under my nose. So I said, "Who's this then?" And I showed them a picture of this bloke, right, with a beard. And they said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, go on, have a wild guess. Who do you think it is?" No idea. I said, that is Cher's daughter. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, that's Cher's daughter. Chaz Bono. Chaz Bono. Yeah. And one of them said, oh my goodness. Well, who would allow that to happen? I said, well, Cher. Right? And they said, and I said, well, Cher's a man, right? Oh, don't be so ridiculous. I said, why? Why is it ridiculous that person there who looks just like a guy is a female, but Cher couldn't be well, it's Cher. I said, exactly. I know. Let's take a quick look at what Cher looks like now without the makeup on. Looks like an old man, right? They couldn't understand what the point was until I started to talk about deception, about the great deceivers. Yeah. This is all about deception. Now, whether you look at the moon landing, whether you look at the Mars rover, whether you look at the medical, pharmaceutical lies, whether you look at government lies and corruption, whether you look at the royal families, whether you look at any of these things, the main word needs to be stamped like the old top secret stamp. Top secret, it just has to say deception. And that's what it is. It's deceit. Yeah. Deceit is fraud. And according to the rule books, according to the rule books, you go to jail for fraud. But this is what it is. Deception is fraud, and that is what's going on.
But their perception of fraud is completely different to ours.
Of course it is.
And I think when you start, with the mystery stuff, that was like a bit of another piece of the puzzle for me, because I didn't need to watch more than one for the penny to drop to understand
straight
what's
away,
going
instant,
on
right?
Yeah, instant. I didn't need any to know that it's all of them that are in certain positions of power and bloodlines, and basically all you have to do is open your eyes to see what's going on in society and what aggressive messages they are pushing on people, to think, well, that's tying in with that, for it to make sense and to start take another step back and view what is the bigger picture going on. But then you also think, wow, what is this realm, don't you?
Yeah.
Because, my goodness, how would they have what they've sold as reality to the masses, the way they've covered it up forever, really, what they are really trying to not allow you to understand who you really are and ask the questions of what we all, well, no, not what we all want to know. Most people don't want to know, but what I've always wanted to know. Why are we here? What am I here for? What's next? What's it all about? Those are questions I've been asking since young, and I think all kids do that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, oh, stop, come on now, let's just get you to school or this, like interrupted.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just encouraged with it because my dad was that way. So we would have these questions, all these talks. That was what I was around. And then that was normal to me. So then for people to not want to know these things is kind of not normal for me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So all this unravelled all that even more, helped me kind of, because before I think I was like thinking that I was getting somewhere, reading different types of books, but it wasn't really. And then boom, when this started, it's like been just another part of the puzzle keeps coming, different parts of the puzzle, and then it's like, wow, this is the deception going on. They're really trying to stop us understanding who we are, aren't they?
Well,
there's a massive reason for that.
The mystery thing was when I discovered the Racco Welsh thing. I didn't even know he was, right? And then I watched a couple of others and I'm like, well, I don't know about all of this, but hang on a minute. And then that was it. Oh, yeah, the first couple, I saw a couple and I was just like, I watched that one and then watched a couple more, and they were the earlier ones, so he wasn't quite so cool with his delivery, they were a bit disjointed and so on. And then I started looking at it a little bit more, and all the people that we followed, whether it's Martin Liedtke, whether it's Paul Cook, whether it's the sheep farms, whether it's Mind Unveiled, any of these people, that nailed the big picture for me, right? This is the end result is to completely change this reality and this realm to something that it's not meant to be. And the way to do it is this is what they're doing. This is the way to do it, right? Yeah. So once you start, and it was like I was saying the other day in our other thing, I was talking to somebody that we know and who's like believes that we're being poisoned by chemtrails, doesn't trust the government. But when I brought up the tranny stuff, the attitude was, well, does it matter? And I'm like, well, yeah, it does, because this is not normal. This is, and there is no way that you can justify any of it. You can't say, well, perhaps that person has got a little bit. Maybe you might have some person who's got a mental problem, a mental issue, I don't know. But as a general rule, and it's like in the music side of things, I quite like Keith Urban, and he's a great guitar player. He's a good singer, good songs. I mean, despite the fact that he's an Aussie, but he's got a Nashville accent. And it's like, there's Keith Urban standing next to that monster, the Kid Man. And it's like, if the Kid Man was a man, then Keith Urban either knows about it or he's the opposite himself. When you look at these guys, all the guys are dating women that are much taller than them. That doesn't happen in reality. Nobody does that. Guys either go out with somebody who's around about their same height, or they go out with somebody smaller. They don't go out with somebody that's 1.5 foot taller than them, right? And all these guys, so-called guys, are going out with tall, it's like a complete body reversal.
Well, they're all tall, really tall, aren't they?
All of them.
Most of these women, women, we'll use that term.
We watched the one on Princess Stephanie of Monaco, which I think you saw, and it's quite obvious that is a good-looking guy, right? And now it's got old. It's a sad-looking, rough old man. That's what it is, right? Women don't...
Did you see the latest one? Did you see his latest? The supermodels, Elle McPherson.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. I mean, look at them. They're Amazonian women. They're not real. They're enormous.
Yeah.
Enormous.
I know.
And that therefore puts Rod Stewart in a very suspect place, doesn't it? Hot legs,
break it.
hot legs. If you want my body,
I don't break
yeah.
it to my mum. I absolutely don't break this one to my mum.
I know some guys who play for some of these people. You know, a guy I know is the drummer for Pink, and he's the drummer for Cher. I've met him a bunch of times. He's played for Simple Minds. He just played for loads of people, right? American guy. Does he know? Does he know? Does he care? Does he have any conception of what is going on?
I wouldn't.
Is he one of them? I don't know.
I wouldn't have thought they would know, because they probably don't really associate with them, would they? You know, like when you mentioned,
yes,
they'll just turn up and the artist turns up. There's no association.
No, it's not like they're all hanging out on the bus together.
No. And even if they have looked online and seen certain rumours about that person, unless you're awake, you are not. Unless you're awake and you have been given eyes to see, you are just going to disregard it as a load of nonsense.
Or you're also going to go, like our friend said, does it really matter? And I guarantee you that every musician that I know has been speared up, except for Joe.
Yeah, I know.
I guarantee it. They've all been speared up. Now, going over, now I can mention Joe now. I haven't asked his permission, but I know I can mention it because of his new video. Now, anybody who knows Joe Lynn Turner, right? I mean, he's got one of the most incredible voices. He's like 70 now. He's phenomenal, right? And he's a real character, you know. He's a little short bloke like me, and I think he's as genuine as you can be in that. I mean, remember, this is the Alice Coopers, this is the, you know, the Van Halens, all these sort of people. A friend of mine sent me, I hadn't seen it, a friend of mine sent me a picture, the new promo picture of Joe. And this is something we never ever talked about, because we always, privacy and respect for somebody and so on. But Joe has always had a problem with basically what they term alopecia, right? But he's basically never had any hair. And of course, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, when this sort of, you know, the Journey, the Van Halen, all these bands came out, it was all about powerful songs and image. You know, if Dave Lee Roth, when he did Jump, came out as a little short, portly guy with a bald head, nobody would have gone, wow, this video for Jump is a really cool song. It's a really cool track, right?
Yeah.
It's all about hair and image, especially in the rock scene. And also in bands like Japan and Duran Duran, Bowie, it was all about image, right? So, you know, Joe's really, and I'm so proud of him, he's come full circle. And he put out, this friend of mine in Portugal sent me this picture, and he's like, check out Joe's new Egyptian-looking image. And I looked at it, and I sent you a picture, didn't I, of him with he's got a white snake around his neck.
Yeah.
He's basically got no hair.
Yeah.
And he's wearing this black sort of top, and he's got black nails, right? And I just sat there for a second, and I remembered what he sent me. And then I found the next picture, which was him, all in white, with a cross around his neck. And then I found the video, I found the album, and the album's called Belly of the Beast. Because all the metalers, they love all that, you know. 666, the number of the beast, Iron Maiden and all that, all the devil horn stuff, even though they don't know what they're doing and all this kind of shit, right? All the bands, all the metal, that's what made me laugh. It was like the metal bands did it, and now you got presidents doing it, you know, really? Macron, you think you're a fucking fan of Metallica, you stupid fucking prick. Yeah, he's another one, isn't he? He's got the T-virus, that bloke. He's got T-virus written all over him, right? But anyway, so...
yeah, we can call it that, can't we?
Yeah, he's got... But anyway, so Joe's come out... So anyway, my mum's a big fan of Joe's, and, you know, my mum's spoken to him loads of times on the phone, and he's always, how's your mum, you know, and all this. And anyway, so his video comes out, Belly of the Beast. I'm going to put a link in. I suggest you go and watch it. And also read some of the really good comments, because it is there are some good comments there. It basically is. It's only a lyric video, but obviously a very well done video. And I won't tell you what's in it. You can look at it for yourself. But he basically spelled out everything that he spelled out to me in 2020 and more. Yeah. And he has called out a lot of people in it by doing this video. Anybody that wants to, we know the kind of people who wants to say, well, there's negative undertones in this, well, you can stick that up your arse and all, because I ain't having any of that. Of course there's negative undertones in it, because it is a negative subject. It's not a positive subject being beaten up by the police, is it? We use that negative that's in there to create positive energy to make us stronger, yeah? That's how I look at it, right?
Yeah.
And as I've said 1,000 times, you cannot have positivity without negativity. It does not work like that. Hence a battery. So it's a great video with some really cool effects and stuff, but just read the lyrics and read the description, and Joe is the only person I know who's had the balls to come out with this, and he is getting more respect already. And he is showing, and he says in it, you know, there are two angels, one on each shoulder, the dark angel and the light angel, or something like that, whatever, right? The good and the bad. Like we've said, there's for good to be around, there has to be bad. Stop this kumbaya shit. There has to be some bad to be able to continue to create.
Well, you wouldn't wake up, would you?
You never wake up. You wouldn't wake up. Exactly. But he sold it, and you know, and I think. Is a very, very brave move, and a very brave move for him to show his true self. You know, he's taken off his, you know, and there he is, and he looks great. And I know why he's done it. It's not because he suddenly decided, I'm fed up with an itchy scalp, I want to show he's done it because he wants to, you know, he's 70 years old, whatever, and he's like, fuck it, fuck these people, you know. And maybe a few other people will start following suit, because, and as I said to you in the message before we started talking, you know, you're going to have people who go, yeah, but you look, he's got a pentagram in there. He's just as bad as the rest of them. It's like, well, what do you think he's going to do, you stupid bastards? Be driving down some boulevard in a Mustang with some blonde sitting next to him, like with his arm out the window with a bloody sunglasses on? Of course he's not. He's approaching a dark theme, and to get that across to the fans of that kind of music, you have to show the dark symbolism, and you have to put the right words to that to show what is going on. And I just like it absolutely made my day, because that made me, that reconfirmed that there are some people out there who are prepared to get off the fence.
Not just aware, but but prepared to.
Remember what we said about actions speak louder than words, right? I'm proud to be fighting alongside him and you and a few other people, and I'm afraid the rest of them, you can't help everybody, you know. You really
I know can't. Do you know, I'd something I've been thinking of lately, because I mean, and I'm sure you and other people that are on this journey, really on this journey, and that have put in much of all the lies together and can see through it, and you're like a dog with a bone, aren't you, all the time? You want to know, you just want to know more. You just want to know more and more. Not necessarily in looking at the real dark stuff, but you just want to understand what it's all about, don't you? You just kind of, it's just because it's quite exciting as well, and you just kind of like, you feel different, don't you, to many other people, because you're becoming so aware and switched on, and stuff's flowing to you like boom, boom, boom all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sinking in. It's not just like, and I've looked back at my journey, and I've noticed that maybe like at first I went whoosh and all this stuff came to me. Then 6 months down the line I was stuck, and I couldn't see the wood for the trees. And then other people I noticed are going through that a little bit. It's almost like little initiations, isn't it? You know, you have to get through one bit to see another bit, and just when you think completely different person, aren't you, to the person you were a few years ago? Yeah,
if you want to be a rock star, this is it.
Yeah.
This is your time to be a rock star. You don't get much, there's not much more rock and roll than this, mate. I'm telling you now. Like we said, we're putting together.
I've always been rock and roll, Gary.
If you want to be a rock star, this is the time to be a rock star. Right? You don't need to play the guitar or sing or bang a drum. This is the, you know, all the guys that like action adventure movies and all shuffling around still with their little poncy masks on. This is the time for you to go out and be an action hero. This is the time for you to actually stand up
Be a bit of a badass.
And be what you are supposed to be. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, you are a rock star, Sarah. Of course you are. That's why I talk to you, mate. You're my little rock star, right? But it's true, you know. My mum's a rock star. My brother's a rock star. My sister-in-law's a rock star. I listened to a live Martin Liedtke Flat Earth British last night, and he was ploughing through some great royal family stuff, you know. And he reckons they've all done a runner. He reckons they're all these people we're seeing, all these entities we're seeing are just replacements. CGI. He said, first off, he said, look at old Charlie boy now. He used to be a big, tall geezer, right? He said, look at him now, he's shorter than I am, right? He said, what's happened to his ears? Why don't his ears stick out anymore? Was he decided to have them pinned back? You know, but he was talking about all these planes.
But this is a whole, we could do another few hours on all that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but he was talking about all these planes flying over Wales, flying over Cardiff, all these military jets. He's like, where are all these military jets going? Why are they advertising for forklift truck drivers to take them to the Arctic? Apparently somewhere, right? And it's like, well, if those forklift truck drivers go to the Arctic, they're never coming back, right? I'd bomb them off, wouldn't they? But there's some interesting stuff out there. And I think, like we said, is that, I said, for me, one of the most disappointing, understandable in a way, but disappointing things is that none of my mates, none of the guys that I thought would even be interested in this give a shit, right? They don't care. They're like, you're ridiculous, it'll all be over by Christmas, you know, World War One, be all over by Christmas. Later on, millions of people are dead. There's a couple of people who are on track, but there's one guy, and that's Joe, right? And that's it. And Joe and Spencer, but I mean more like mainstream people. And as we've said before, the entertainment business is the perfect coercion tool, you know. And you got Dolly Parton singing Vaccine instead of Jolene, you know. I mean, come on, really, you know. And not only that, really embarrassing as well. I mean,
well, the thing with this, they just showed them. It made it easier to spot who the deceived are, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because they just all started promoting the vaccine.
Yeah.
You know, in certain religious organisations, it made it simple, really. It made it easy for us with eyes to see actually that the deception was everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought people within my, you know, where I work and that would have their eyes open, but none of them.
No. So
a couple of people, a chap that I worked with in the old team, he was on it, and he'll never bow to it. He probably doesn't want to know anymore. Do you know what I mean? You know, he's not like fired up, I don't think, about it anymore. I've got another friend in my team who's a youngish girl in there. I've helped her through it because we were threatened with our jobs and everything 2 weeks before. You know, we were going to lose our jobs, and you know, we found strength in each other, because she was like, if I hadn't have got you, Sarah, I think I'd have just gone ahead with it. No, Jess, do not be. And I said, look, just stand strong. And of course, it never materialised, did it?
No, but it was too late for a lot of people by then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the selfish part of it as well is that people will call you out, call you names. I've not been called anything by anybody, because that'd be the last fucking thing they ever did. You want to call me names, mate, you'll only ever do it once, and that's the end of it, you know. But I don't need to explain myself. But I would never dream of calling somebody names for going ahead and doing something. No. Right? So don't if you want to call me out, then we've got a problem, right? And that's the last time you will ever hear from me or speak to me again, because I wouldn't do that to you. So these people, their consideration was they don't care whether let's just say the people that we know that protests don't work, but let's just say that the people that were protesting were doing it because they were actually terrified of what might happen if they take something, and then the people are criticising them for being genuinely scared. So how inconsiderate are those people? If they'd all turned around and said, well, if you don't want to do that, you don't do it, and then if you end up catching something, we can't help you. That's one thing. But to condemn them, to have this big-nosed shrimp of an arsehole over here saying, my job now is to piss off. That guy somebody should have just walked up, punched his lights out. You know, who do you think you are threatening people like that, right? Because it shows no consideration. If they'd been clever, they would have done it the other way, and other people would have gone, well, actually, they're not threatening us, so maybe there isn't anything to be afraid of. But once you start threatening people, that means that you are showing your true colours, and you are showing that there is a reason to be doing that. But nobody gave any consideration, and this is why I said earlier on, do you think that this is the way it's meant to be? And it was not laid out necessarily by these entities, but this is the modern day flood. I don't know. I mean, you know, it's a pretty heavy duty.
There are so few of us that are. I mean, there's more of us, I think, than what you realise that haven't gone ahead with it.
Well, you mentioned that, didn't you? You mentioned that, and we'll get onto that, because you were talking to a couple, weren't you?
Yeah.
At a barbecue.
And I've come across this quite a lot, actually. And I was talking to a couple, and this it come to. I mean, I'd had a few Aperol spritzers.
Spritzers.
So, is it Aperol or Aperol? Aperol spritzers. I mean, I don't really need any alcohol anyway, just to be a gobshite.
Because you're wired to the gills all the time, aren't you?
Can't rein myself in. But chuck a few Aperol spritzers down, and it's party time. Yeah, so talking to this girl, first she was telling me she was a pole dancer, so that was fun. I said, well, we won't go there.
But a real pole dancer, or one of those keep fit pole dancers?
Keep fit pole dancers.
Ah, well,
not
that's
a real.
different.
Get too excited. We can try and get her on.
Yeah.
We started talking, and she's a beautician as well, and all that. Then she was telling me about, you know, she was saying, I didn't wear the masks and all of that. And I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And the guy who was doing the barbecue has had it, but he's aware that it's, you know, he knows it's all wrong, but he's just gone along with it. And he likes sometimes to be chatting about stuff and then throw it in and then go over to Sarah. I'm like that. I'm like, please, not over to me. I'm not interested in it today. I want a break from it. But it always comes back to that. Anyway, so she was talking. She said she hadn't gone along with the whole having the Britney, and so that was that was great. I thought, oh right, we're in here. And then she said, and I haven't, because I didn't need it because I've got immunity, because I've had COVID 3 times.
Oh dear, yeah, you just couldn't make it up, could you?
And then I was like, I mean, she was quite tough looking, to be fair. I mean, I don't exactly look tough. Well, I don't think I do.
Yeah, but they always say it's the little ones you got to be careful of, right? It's the little ones.
The amount of hairspray and false lashes on.
You don't need a helmet, mate, do you? You're like bulletproof.
Yeah. And they can't sink cackling. They just think that I'm a nutter. So where did I get to with that? So she said that, and so I was like, my reaction, you haven't had COVID to her. Yeah. She looked at me in horror, like sort of backed off a little bit. Could see that I'd pissed her off, which is generally the way I seem to roll in life. Just piss off people. I don't mean to. Then a partner who was actually could just feel his energy was better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
He was, and he wanted to then he was like open. He was like, he wanted to talk about it. Of course, then I'd got the captive audience, you see. He was soaking it all in. He was saying, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you. He said, you know, my brother speaks like this, and you know, I just want to learn more and more. I've not gone along with it, and I know it's all wrong. I'm just kind of, he was awake, wanting to be awake. I think some people just wanted to be a bit cocky and say, oh, I'm not having it because the government have said, but not done any research or anything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he was completely different, and I put him in a few things to have a look into. Yes, I just thought it's really interesting. It's not. I think there's only few of us that are really interested in learning, and we'll get to a bit more about what it's all about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think majority will just turn back, and I think is it? I've written this down, and I did think, is it our job to wake others really or is it Or should we just be focusing on more of our own journeys and developing out what we need to know? Because does that help just in general? Are people, some people just not meant to?
Well, you said that the other day, and you were 100% right. I know you said about, don't sweat the small stuff. I was having a turn over our internet, right? Because our internet was just like for about 8-9 weeks now, and because I do a bit of the old crypto stuff.
Yeah.
Wonderfully, this weekend I lost a bunch of money whilst I was going to do a transfer. I didn't actually lose it, but the old money went up.
Yeah.
And as an example today, anybody who had a Bitcoin lost $3,000 overnight if they couldn't get online. That's a lot of money to lose, right? You see, the problem is that because we've become so used to having all this stuff available, I mean, when you think that basically our lives now evolve around being able to upload our podcasts, and if we do any online work at all, i.e. whether it's stocks and shares, crypto, whether it's a web designer or whatever, if it keeps going off and they won't come and sort it out, it is a major part of your life, right? But you did say something the other day, and you are very grounding. This is the thing. I know we like to laugh and joke and all this. Oh, yeah, absolutely you are. Yeah, of course you are. That's why you're sort of like my best mate. Also, the fact that nobody else wants to talk to me. But the thing is that you said something the other day, and you said about I hate all these terms, like discovering your true self and all that. But that is what we are actually doing. We are finding out what is more important. What is more important, And it's like my music thing, I said this to Joe. I sent him a voice message, and I said I was getting bored, mate. I was starting to get bored with what am I going to do next? I was starting to get bored. All the time you improve yourself, your energy is going to go somewhere, and maybe it will help somebody else. It is. Innit? And that's what you said. And it's not because we think, like I said, it's not because we think we're better. It's got nothing to do with thinking you're better than anyone. We just see things in a different way, and hopefully some of that will bleed off onto other people.
It does. It definitely does, because you see people in the truth community, and they're out there and saying, you should do this, you should that, you should be protesting, you should da-da-da-da. And then again, it's that whole thing of somebody feeling out of control, so trying to control others.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Which is like what the masses were doing. They were out of control. So saying, say for instance, I had a few messages from family members when it all kicked off saying, "Oh, great, you're first in line to get the vaccine." And I was like, well, yeah, because I was, working in social care. Yeah, but I won't be having it. What? And it was like that. But because they were feeling so out of control, because that's what the media and the brainwashing had done, hadn't it?
Yeah.
They were trying to control others. So then you see it in the truth community. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Again, projecting out. I had people that I've known on this journey. Well, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. Actually, no, I shouldn't. No. You should be working on yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've on this journey, I've met people along the way that I'm grateful for everyone I've met along the way, because I tell you what, they've taught me something, and they've all
we taught each other, haven't we? We've all taught each other.
Yeah, and whether it's like that's not in my life now or what, they've certainly taught me something, and hopefully I've showed them something. So then when all that, I had people telling me that, I thought, no, I'm just going to work on myself. And I really worked hard on myself, like physically, mentally. I got really strong. I thought I need to be walking the walk here. So if anyone turns round and says, well, you should be having this, or, because I'm working in health, I want to be looking the part, and I want to be looking healthy, and I want to be glowing, I want to be vibrant, I want to be...
a bit like the new UK health minister.
Yes. Exactly not like that.
Winston Churchill's slightly younger brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking awful, isn't it? What is that? I nearly said something. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
I'm still on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to behave myself on this one, so I could say all sorts of things, but I'm gonna not. So I thought, I need to be, and looking the part and being healthy and vibrant and being switched on and being, an example, really.
Yeah, lead by example.
And nobody then who could come at me and go, because whatever they had, they could not come at me, because I'm the one looking healthy, looking after not getting well, leveling up.
Yeah.
You know, and some people saying to me, "Oh my God, you look like a teenager now." Do you know what I mean? Because I've just rehauled everything.
Yeah.
And what can they can't even, nobody will even question me now, because most people look like a bag of shit.
Yeah, I've had nobody ask me, right, because they don't dare.
Yeah.
It's not because like they're frightened of me or anything, because no one's going to be frightened of me. It's not like I'm an aggressive, sort of Superman looking bloke or whatever, that, oh dear. Like one guy that I work with, he's bought into, and he is a bit of a hypochondriac as well, I think, and he said, he was telling, he goes, his mum was coming over and he's like, yeah, mum got her jibby jab just in time. And I went, oh, that's nice for her. And, and he was talking about it, and he's been ill. And he again, another one who couldn't understand how he could succumb to something that he never got before, but gets after he's had the what's it, right? And then he said to me, and then his one of his family members come over and he got it again, right? And I just said to him, ain't working well for you, mate, is it, eh? And I just walked off, and that was it. What can he possibly say? What can he possibly say?
I think they know now, don't they? And they realise, and you have to walk the walk, don't you? I mean, don't get me wrong, I fall off track every now and then, but I really try and eat well and avoid all the crap, like really, and you feel amazing. And then you're like, I can take on anything. I'm conquering. And who's going to look at me and say, well, she's not? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because I sound cocky, but I can walk the walk and talk the talk.
But you're leading by, you're leading by example. That's what you're doing. You're leading by example.
Hopefully.
I'm never going to tell anybody. I would never tell anybody to do something that I wasn't prepared to do myself.
No.
Right? So that's why I said I am fucking damned. I hate being told. I've told you this. Don't tell me what to do. There's a way that you can talk to people that shows that it's genuine. But as soon as you start telling me what to do, that's it. I'm out. And if that means I never ever speak to you again, so be it. Because I don't need you around me that much.
I know. I think that's the thing, in it, with this journey. You kind of like. I've gone into solitude quite a bit at times, and then people have probably thought, God, what's up with her? She's because I've had to distance myself, because I thought there's some people I'm not going to enjoy going out with certain people when they're just plugged into the bullshit, and I turn up and it's like, let's rock and roll, and I've got a few drinks down me, I'm going to cause havoc.
Well, that's what Chris and Dom said, wasn't it, ages ago? Dom from Sheep Farm said, and I had a nice message from him the other day, as you know, and he said that he had a lot of people around him that he thought he had something in common with, and were his friends, to find out later on he had absolutely nothing in common with them at all, and now he's got new friends that he's got everything in common with and enjoys. It's all about moving in certain circles, isn't it? It's like for me to sit down with a couple of guys who are football obsessed. Not that I'm saying that there's anything wrong with being into your sport, but I am not going to really have an enjoyable evening listening to that, and they might not have an enjoyable evening. But the funny thing is, I said, with my career, or whatever you want to call it, I never ever talk about music when we go to dinner parties or barbecues or anything like that. I never talk about music. I'd rather listen to somebody talking about what they've been doing to their house and stuff like that. It's just it's not your place to be loading, let's say, your hobbies or your business ideas onto people. You just have a general conversation, don't you? But when
someone brings up COVID and says they've not had the darts, that's it, you're in, aren't you?
Because unless you're really unlucky, going to a football game or watching it with some mates on television isn't going to kill you. Right, whereas this is literally what they made movies about. And I was going to say to you, like, you told me the other day, and on that front about other people that you've known, and you were talking about those people at the barbecue, but you've also noticed a couple of other things, haven't you? At the football, there was your daughter's thing.
I mean, I see loads of stuff, because unlike you, I am quite sociable. And I'm in the thick of it.
You're right in it, mate. You're right in it. You're stuck right in the middle of it all, aren't you? So you do a great job balancing it out.
Oh, good grief. Honestly, if we did sign a contract and agreement when we came into this realm, honestly, where I'm going next, it should be absolutely pure heaven. I mean, it's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm signed up for this. So I'm right in the thick of it. Obviously, I'm working in it. So I'm observing all the time there and trying to do my bit there. Then I've obviously got the school, I've got football clubs, I've got different parents that I'm dealing with, and my kids' friends' parents that are telling me stuff now. All sorts of, because everybody knows it's pretty obvious with me because there's no, as well, the past few years, a lot of layers have been stripped from me, whereas it's just that I am just who I am, even more so. And I notice I'm just different from how other people behave, or not different, this sounds wrong, but do things very differently, think very differently to maybe the majority of other parents, and you know, and my kind of how take on the stuff, and what I encourage and what I don't encourage. Maybe some parents would think that was wrong, or you know, or I'm not strict enough about some things, but I'm strict on some things, but more strict on like what nutrition and health is, and like resilience, and I'm not so worried about what grades they get at school or nothing like that. I'm more concerned about their character and who they are, and you know, and I'm not kind of anal about stuff. I've gone right off track here, haven't I? So yeah, I'd one lady that was telling me that she's had constant bleeding since having the Brittany, and gone to the GP about it, who's actually said it will be from that, but there's nothing we can do. So
Exactly.
she was telling me about it, and I think she was telling me because she knows I'm into natural health and everything, and she knows my thoughts on all of this, and she's switched on with a lot of it. You know, she thinks it's not right. Funnily enough, her husband as well, he's in his mid-30s. He's been having troubles with his heart. You know, he's been having ECGs. Both are kind of like putting it together, but they like their nice holidays, and it's all about what hotel they stayed at and where they've been and all of that. So, and I thought, well, how can you could be anywhere in this realm, but if your health's struggling like that, you could be in the best hotel in the world, or the best, or you know, and what's the point? I'd rather be in the middle of a field and have my health and have some music on and be around cool people, you know, in the middle, and rough it. But people's mentality is different, isn't it?
Look at you go to a hospital and you go to the fake cancer ward, right? And then you see the people that work in the cancer ward, and then at tea break time they're all sitting outside smoking. And you said about some of the people that you do things with, who, you know, they're not the epitome of health, and yet they're trying to dictate to other people about being healthy.
Oh yeah, or the staff members and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, even hospitals, if you look at their food, what they serve.
Yeah.
When people are recovering, it's just processed
shite.
Ramble that's not going to actually heal anybody.
No.
You know, because your body is your temple, isn't it? It's gonna, what you're putting in there, what you're doing emotionally, mentally, physically, everything is all about what makes you who you are. And if you get stuff clear, that's when you can get the clear head as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Dom and Chris, I listened to them the other day, and they'd hit on a couple of things that we brought up, and they were talking about the London Bridge shenanigans.
They did. Yeah.
Why were all the cameras turned off and all this kind of stuff? You know. Yeah. Because we all know, right? That's why we did a video on it. But it's like they were bringing up why are all these defibrillators appearing all over the place?
Yes, you know? they're appearing everywhere.
Yeah.
But apparently someone was I was having this conversation. Yeah, because we didn't have defibrillators everywhere years ago. And I tell you what, as well, you know, I have had training in them when I worked at hospital, and you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. You cannot, somebody who hasn't got a clue would not know what to do with that.
No.
And you've got to stand back, because you can actually kill yourself if you're still holding on to it. If you're touching that person, you get the shock straight through your body.
We've got in our little village, we call it a village, there's nothing there, it's just the mayor's office, Mary, right? There's about a dozen houses around the Mary, and hanging on the Mary wall is a defibrillator. What good is that? What good is that in the mayor's office? It's not a portable thing, is it?
It is portable.
It's portable. So if somebody keels over in their house, somebody's got to run over to the Mary,
but
pick
you've
it
got
up, run back, rub the two things,
and be
stand
confident
clear.
enough to know. Be confident enough to know how to apply all the pads in the right place.
Yeah.
This will make you laugh. There used to be a Bic razor in there for if a bloke had a hairy chest and the things wouldn't stick on, you needed to
shave it off.
Shave his chest first.
Is there any shaving cream in there as well so he doesn't end up with a rash?
You couldn't make it up.
No.
You just think, well, how about we prevent heart attacks happening in the first place?
Yeah, but they know they've covered every base on this. And this is what I was saying to you. As far as I'm concerned, from this point forward, anybody who's got doctor in front of their name, I don't care whether you're you're all the same, you're all bent, the lot of you, right? To get rid of your doctor. No, I'm not just talking about your local quack, like our guy down, because we got an old village doctor. I mean, he's literally got the old leather case. I'm talking about all these doctors, these truth doctors. Get rid of the doctor off the front of your name and I might listen to you, right? So you've got all these bods now that are out on tour or have been out on tour with old the Trumpster, right? Yeah. And yet they're anti this, but he's the one who was pushing it. So exactly what side are you on? But as we said, is that like if you've got a tourniquet or a tourniquet like we talked about, you've got to put that on and try and use it, right? Otherwise, the person's you're gonna bleed out before you even get a chance with the shock and all this kind of stuff. So they know that and it's like they start talking about this, sudden adult deaths or whatever it's called, all this
adult deaths, that's sad.
Yeah, let's give it a new name, SADS, and all this kind of stuff. And they're just making it normal because they know that.
Of course they are.
People are going to start panicking. People are going to. Did you hear about so and so keeled over? Oh, what a shame!
Oh, they probably had that. They were probably genetically predisposed, and that's the programming that they're putting in. But they've been programming us like that forever.
Yeah, but why did we? So this, like I said, this is the thing I'm going to ask Mr. E. Hopefully, talk to him tomorrow or Friday. But why was it that we suddenly went, hang on a second, just like that? And if you remember, I said to you about 7 years ago now, I said to my mum, and my mum's 86 now, and I said to my mum, you ain't having no more of them flu jabs. One, they're not doing you any good. Yeah. She was never ill, right? I said, but you don't need them. I said, and secondly, do you really think they want to keep giving you your pension? Of course they don't, right? I know. Right? So she hasn't had them. Yeah. Meanwhile, everybody that we know is feeling a bit crook, right? And then they'll all be lining up for their flu jab, which you can now get here at 50, right? So one of the guys I work with, I guarantee you he'll be lining up, not knowing what that concoction's going to do, but eradicating all the COVID bullshit, right? The end result is that these entities, if they're not dealt with, want to change this realm, get rid of as many of us sort of people as possible, and then turn those that are left into what they want them to be. That is my and somebody, I can't remember, it was somebody said to me, well, what do you think the end? And I said, well, kill us all off, mate. That's what they want to do. They want to kill us all off. Oh, don't be ridiculous. I said, hey, that's up to you. You believe what you want. That's what they want to do. That's what they're doing right now. They want to kill us all off. Get over it. Go and do some research and you'll find out. And that's the only way you can put it to people now, is that is what they want to do. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's I've observed as well, because I think when you start really, really being in the truth, you can really Don't get me wrong, I'm not completely mad. It's a journey, isn't it? It's a climb to the top of a mountain, isn't it? You keep peeling back more layers as you go further up, and that's what I've noticed anyway. So I'm on that track. But I noticed a year ago, maybe the people I was going out to see were 70s, 80s. Now there's so many people my age in their 40s, 50s. Yeah. I'd never seen people my age before. Now I'd say half I see are neurological conditions in their 50s, some in their 40s, people that are new amputees, that sort of thing. a lot of the older people aren't with us, or they're not getting referred through. It's interesting. It's certainly interesting times.
And of course now we've got the shit show of the the royals. And then I watched this live thing with Martin last night on Flat Earth British, and there's old Prince Charlene walking around.
I wasn't gonna go there.
Walking around, shaking all these people's hands, and they're all singing, and all this kind of stuff.
Charlie.
Princess Charlene, and basically, they're telling you how they're going to basically change the realm of Britain into this, this wonderful utopia now, and people.
Yeah, because he's really into nature. Somebody said that to me. They said, "Oh, I'm interrupting you. I'm really pleased we've got Charles in because I think he's going to be better because he's really into the environment and nature."
Yeah, whatever. Whilst he got how many fucking private jets has that prick got? He's got like 4 or something, right?
Yeah.
But
well, he wants to get us into cities and out of the countryside.
Yeah. So basically, all the shit will come from the cities, and so Well, we talked about that, haven't we? And that's what I said about Country Life magazine. I wrote to them and said to them, "You do realise you're all going to go bust because no one's going to be living in the country, right?" But it just shows you what short-term memories people have got. Because they seem to forget that last year a large group of these people were out waving banners saying they weren't putting up with this, that and the other, and under the next step. But Martin pulled up a couple of really cool little things that people had missed, like glitches in the Matrix. The coffin, the Queen's coffin disappeared at one point out of the hearse. It went round the corner and the cameras clocked it and there was no coffin in the back. How did they do that? All kinds of little things like that. Kind of interesting. But like you said, I think what all of this does is for people like us, I put it this way, I do a lot more push-ups than I used to. I'm rocking
I need to get back on that
some
more.
good guns these days, mate. I am.
Good. You can need them. You might need them. Yeah.
But
I need to. I used to do about 100 a day.
Right. Well, I tell you.
There you go.
Tell you what you want to do, mate. I tell you what you want to do. Do these slow ones I told you about, like where you just do 5, and you go down. You keep your head lifted up. We'll cut this little bit off, but you go down. Right, you keep your body off the ground and straight as you would, but go down really slow and do 5 of them really, really slow and keep your head up. It's the equivalent of doing like 50. It burns like a bastard. And I tell you what, the backs of my arms, mate. Listen to that.
You won't beat me in an arm wrestle.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. But it's brilliant. I tell you, I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy crap.
Well, I've got a routine, haven't I? From the Tommy, we'll have to reference Tommy John because the stuff that he comes out with about healing and everything and movement and
the back,
he
back
rips
you
all
put
the health
me on.
food. Yeah. His stuff. He's got a Cross Crawl Superman as well, and it's really good.
Yeah, well, that back thing was superb.
Because you've always been a drummer and everything. You've got all that anyway, haven't you? That's like cardio, strength. That's everything.
Yeah.
But that guy, I think we should do not a whole one, but talk about him another time because it's not even gym stuff. It's kind of like just movement throughout the day that then prepares you for the forces of life.
Yeah, exactly.
As in whatever environment you're going to put yourself in. That's why you take the piss out of people running or, you know what I mean, or doing like a sport. Because why do they get injured?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they haven't prepared their body properly for that sport.
Yeah.
And these people that are like the PTs or the physios or that, they're all programmed, so they don't really get that principles of movement. They don't really understand how the body works. So that's why the injuries occur. So his one, I sent you that latest, didn't I? It was just like get rid of all of them, wasn't he?
Yeah.
All of them, basically, that you're so much better without them. And even, I don't know if we're recording now or what, but
yeah, we are. Yeah.
That I do this little routine because you see people in gyms, they're just throwing weights around. They don't know why they're doing it.
No.
Or they're not doing it, or they're just doing it to look a certain way. They don't really know. They're just going, all right, I've been told to do that many reps. I've been told to do that many sets, and they just do it. but they're not listening to their bodies. Whereas your reps are your intention, and your sets are, again, you know, it's listening to what is right. It's got to come from you. And again, this has been part of my kind of learning. I've learned that one. All of his stuff, what he sort of taught, just completely made sense to me. And I was like, bloody hell. So when I've gone in my little health club, which I haven't got to for about 2 months, and the guy, when I go in, is just like, he thinks I'm really shady. Well, he's right. I'll be like, here she is. We've not seen her for ages again. What's been happening? Like, don't ask.
Yeah.
Don't ask me. But he's an ex-footballer, pro footballer, and was a physio, and he watches me do this stuff, and then he'll come over and be like, what are you doing there? And I've got my book with all my post-its in, which is the Tommy J's book, actually. And it's just like stuff like skipping, dead hanging, going up on my feet, like on my toes. And other people will come over, like guys in there, go, what are you doing over there? What sort, you know, while they're just throwing weights around, grunting, and not really doing it in pairs and not really understanding. Then I'm doing that spinal stuff, which is quite dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah. But you can
and not giving a shit.
You can feel it, and you can really feel the difference. You know, I mean, like he was saying, if you've got cracks and clicks and knocks and crunches when you're moving around, that's what you've got to be targeting. Why is that cracking and creaking and so on and so forth? You know. Yeah,
and not just, which is what they do. They, you know, like you'll have a protocol for a shoulder, a protocol for a back, a protocol for this, a protocol for that, and like what Tommy John says. If you just strengthen that area, what about all your other... You've just changed the blood platelets and everything in that area. What about all your other areas? You've just weakened them.
Yeah.
So you've got to do... It's like it's got to be all of it. To heal that area, you have got to heal all of it. Otherwise, you will start healing that area, then you'll get problems in another area and another area and another area. Well, you've got to do it all round.
It's like Bill Burr said about waxing your car. You know, you don't just wax the front two wings and go, that'll do. You've got to do the whole thing, otherwise the rest of it looks like crap.
Yeah, exactly. And what do people do? Oh, I'm going to do a leg day, I'm going to do an arm day. And then they don't really know why they're doing it. Oh, I'm going to do this to get this muscle. You see people that are all right, toned up, ripped up. Well, what do? They go and injure themselves. Oh, I've pulled this. You know, I've torn this ligament, I've torn that. Well, why have you? Yeah. Because, you know, they haven't really understood how the body works. And this guy who runs this health club over the hill from me, it's quite a posh village over the hill, and there's loads of money there, and ex-football and stuff like that. And lots of women in there that are, I'm going to be a right bitch now. Botoxed up to the hills, having personal training sessions, and but just doing it for a quick fix. Yeah,
bunch of old frustrated housewives.
and he'll come over.
Sorry, girls.
And I know, and then he'll say like what I'm doing, and then he'll try and give me a bit of guidance. I'm like, no, you're right, John. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, I know you do. He said, but if then he tries to explain himself. He said, if I did that with people, because they want the quick fixes, Sarah. Everyone wants a quick fix. He said they wouldn't be back for my personal training.
No.
So it's like they're always getting repeat customers again, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, exactly,
to get me. So if he understands what I'm doing and what real that is about, but he said nobody's got that mentality of it is all the time. It's not just a quick fix. He said 99% of people haven't got that. I wouldn't have a business if I was doing the stuff you're doing.
No.
With people. So they do get it. Yeah. They get it, but they know it's not going to...
Well, like you said to me, I mean, it was because of some of the things that you said that, you know, it was like, I said to my brother, it's like, you know, my brother, he dived into a very cold, dirty English channel to save a woman who was trying to drown herself. Funny thing was she wasn't doing a very good job, because this is like the third time she's tried to drown herself. Right. But anyway, he ended up swallowing a load of dirty water and everything. He ended up with bowel problems, you know. So the obvious one is, I've got IBS. And I was like, no, you haven't. I said, you just got a dicky stomach, mate, that's all. And I goes, that's what the doctors tell you. So now you've labelled yourself with something, right? Okay. I said, but so what do you take for that then? Is it actually curing the stomach problem, or is it just fixing for a period the
masking symptoms, making you feel better?
What about looking into what is again? I used to be a big fan of Bill Burr, right, which I'm not anymore, because he's another one who's on the side of you know who.
Yeah.
But he was talking about the shoulder issues, you know, and especially with drummers. You know, a lot of drummers get a problem with the old rotator cuff. And I saw a picture, I told you, of my mate who'd literally been hatcheted up by some surgeon, and I said, well, fuck that, I ain't having none, I'd rather put up with this aching shoulder. And anyway, I listened to Bill Burr, a freaking comedian, who was told by his drum instructor, this is what you need to do, mate. And he bent over in that 90-degree angle, and he let his hand hang down and the weight pull it down, and then he started rotating his arm left and right. And I did that for about a month, and I've not had a problem.
Reps.
Not had a problem since.
Yeah.
You know?
Scat reps. That's in that program.
Yeah, the same with my sciatic nerve. I was starting to get sciatic nerve problem, and this guy that we know here, he said, lie on the floor, get your knee, pull it right over to your right shoulder till your arse ache, your arse cheek really burns like that. And he said, you do that every day for a couple of weeks. I've done that. I did that about 5 years ago, and I've never had it since.
Yeah, that's like the what do they call it? Mermaid, I think, or something. I don't know, but that's in that book as well.
Yeah.
There's a few movements that are just that are really well. All of the way he explains it is just like move every joint in your body every day, toes to thumbs, keep them moving, you know, and do them. So when you do them, whatever you're doing, you've got to understand why you're doing them, put the emotion and all that in there.
And how many people sit and take 5 minutes a day to breathe properly? You know, when you sit there and you breathe in properly, and you know, whether you do the diaphragm one or the chest one or whatever, because I know there's a couple and so on, it actually makes you feel better whilst you're doing it. You feel yourself tighten right up and you go, that feels pretty good, you know. How many people spend all their lives breathing through their mouths and never breathe through their natural filter system, which is their nose?
Because they're in a parasympathetic state, aren't they? Which is what this no, but it is. It's what the world puts you in, and the fear. They're in So if you take yourself out of that, then you can think clearer, and that's what these whole movements, like what he's saying. You don't need a trauma counsellor. You don't need this like body worker. You don't need that. You know, if you use those movements and you were in that movement, well, straight away, if you're concentrating properly in that movement and understanding why you're doing it, you know, for your health, for your emotional, all of that, and you go into that with that, put the mindset in that, your posture will correct, your breathing will correct, your core will tighten, and you don't need to be, because people would go, you know, doing all these classes, they don't know why they're doing these classes, they're swinging stuff about, they're trying to like be competitive, all that shit, but you just got to... It's about yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I do them on my own, really, and do them on the garden. I'll be watching Iris's gym class before I do mine, and I'll drop down into some sort of plank for 5 minutes while I'm watching her.
Nod off.
And the other parent.
Nod off.
The other parents are thinking, what the fuck's going on with her?
Yeah.
But the thing is, I would have probably not done this sort of stuff a few years back, but now I don't care.
No.
It's they think I'm nuts anyway. I think they may as well give them good reason to.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, is that we've there's something that's rung that little bell at the back of our heads that you know, we didn't just learn about corruption and evil out of this. We learned a lot of good stuff about this. It's beneficial to us, you know, as individuals. I mean, I learned about the parasite thing from Don Waterson, you know, and which we now do, and it doesn't cost very much. Well, it costs virtually peanuts, shirt buttons to do it, and all that kind of stuff, which we never, you know. And I suddenly thought, don't want all them things crawling around inside me. Like I said, you worm your pets and everything, but you don't think about yourself, and that all this shit's not supposed to be floating around, and that's where all the polyps and everything come from. I'm convinced all of that. You know, you're doing something naturally, and we would perhaps not even looked into it, and that's why that little bell ringing, that little wake-up call to other things that are also very motivating.
Definitely.
Good fun.
I mean,
you know.
Yeah. I mean, my little one made me proud today. She does her own breakfast. She went, I'm doing my smoothie, Mum. She woke up this morning, she's a bit of a sneezers. Detoxing, I always tell her. Your body's detoxing. Don't worry about it. It's got to get out. Can't spread it,
No.
She's like, I know. So anyway, she said, I'm going to make myself a smoothie. She's only 8, chopping up strawberries with quite a sharp knife. And I know she's capable of it. So don't worry me, stuff like that. She's got a chopping board out. She's chopping them up, chopping the banana up, milk's in. Then she's putting yogurt in. Then I've got this vitamin C crystals. She bangs some of that in, and then she's like, we've got this blender on there for about a minute, and and it's like lovely. And then she went, have you got the homeopathic remedies, Mum? I'll just have a look on there and see which one's good for a cold starting. And then I know that'll balance my body out. I thought, yes, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
My little, and she was there, so that's been normalised to her now.
Yeah. Well, you see, in the old days, that's what in the old days, especially in the States, like out on these ranches and all this kind of stuff, and in the countryside, young kids were taught how to do certain things, like how to milk a goat or a cow and things like that. They might have not liked it at the time. But I was saying to Mum this morning, why do you think that at schools, let's just say not necessarily the little ones, but from about 8 upwards, why do schools not have half an hour a week to teach children first aid? Do you know what I mean? Because you hear often sometimes, a 12-year-old girl saves mother from bleeding to death and things like that. That should be because they don't want you to do that stuff. They don't want you to be able to help yourself.
They don't want you to be learning the practical stuff, do they? You have to that's what it has to
on that front about medical stuff and everything, because we're rocking out 2.5 hours here, mate. We've done good on this one. One thing that we're going to bring up again about this just weird world of everything that's going on. I think we talked about it the other day. That Anne Heche shenanigans, who apparently burned up in the car, and yet there's the videos of this so-called person trying to tear its way out of a body bag. I think that we'll save that for another day, but I think we should pull up some of these little events that we've seen and have a little look into those, because again, none of that adds up, but it adds up to us because we kind of know what's going on. But again, how many people have seen that and thought, well, that looks a bit strange, what's going on there? It always gives you puts the question mark up when you see 4 fire trucks and all that, all for one car that's on fire. Do you know what I mean? You don't often see 4 fire trucks at a building that's on fire, let alone a car. So what was that set up for? What were they trying to show there? And I think there's some interesting things like that we can pull up. And I know that Martin did on his Flat Earth British, Martin Liedtke did one last night, which I listened to till I nodded off, and he pulled up some really interesting stuff on there. And again, don't buy into it all, don't believe it all, but add those things to things you already know and sit down and you'll have an interesting hour contemplating various other things, won't you? That's what it's about. If we're offered something and shown something, we've then got to do something with it.
Yeah. And you see, most people are just not interested, are they? They're more interested in comparing and despairing on social media.
This guy, there's this guy that I used to work with. He's a nice bloke and everything, but I just turned him off. I just couldn't stand it any longer. I mean, I don't think he even realises that he's doing it, but narcissist beyond belief. And it's just like, well, you get on, mate. You get on, and I hope it works out for you. But from our intel, it ain't looking good.
I know. I know, exactly.
Anyway, well, look, me and Sarah are going to talk a little bit more after this, because we've got a couple of things that we want to. We got a few people whose heads we want to pull off. Just kidding. But anyway, that was great chat, and thanks for the questions. It is difficult to steer the ship, but when you've done it a couple of times, it's easy. Right? Just remember, I've had a little bit more practice.
I mean, for me, just steering, for you to steer me, I mean, it's like herding cats, because I'm all over the shop. all the time. No one can steer me usually.
My mate said it's like a box of frogs. A box of frogs.
Baptism of fire for you, this.
Well, anyway, hopefully we'll have over the next week, if it all pans out and our internet stays on. We've been having a lot of problems with internet here because they're basically switching us on and off to try and get us to go to fibre, which we don't want. But hopefully tomorrow or Friday, I'll be talking to the legend. Is becoming a legend.
I'm so excited about
Mr.
that.
E.
Listen to that.
And we're going to be talking about music as well, because obviously the big conversation is the T virus, which is basically what he talks about anyway. But I want to sort of look in a little bit about his musical background. I guess he's probably sort of round about my age, maybe a bit younger. So he grew up on all the same sort of bands, because he mentions a lot of the bands and so on. So I want to have a chat with him about music and so on and so forth, and how he's sort of transversed over into the way he looks at things now, which he didn't again, he was basically on the same path as us. And then all of a sudden he had boom, that was it. So all right then. Well,
all right.
Anybody who's listened in, thanks for listening in. Hope we've shared a little bit more of our insight into things. So thanks, me sweetheart, again as always.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening in, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye.